Today, we're going to be talking about the craziest FNAF fan games that have ever been created. From insanely difficult gameplay all the way to crazy storytelling, this video has it all, so let's go. I've covered a lot of games made by the developers in the Five Nights at Freddy's Fanverse initiative. I've covered the fantastic Joy of Creation made by Nixon, the famous Five Nights at Candy's by Emil Mako, and I've covered the gorgeous One Night at Flumpty's by Groomer Jonachrome. For the most part, I've enjoyed all of these games, but there is still one game in the initiative I have yet to cover, Popgoes by Kane Carter. Another incredibly well-known FNAF fan game with a lot of people having a sweet spot for it. Today, I'm here to find out why. Stick around because I've got a lot to say about it. As mentioned, Popgoes was created by Kane Carter and was released to the public on June 26, 2016. Immediately, it got a lot of recognition, with FNAF fan games definitely being popular at the time, but it was still new to find a game that remotely matched the quality of the originals, and Popgoes 100% did. The game shares lore in continuity to the official Five Nights at Freddy's games. However, it does retcon everything FNAF 4 onwards, meaning in order to understand the lore, we have to think only about FNAF 1 through 3. With that key detail out of the way, let's get all around the cobbler's bench and right into Popgoes. A lot of FNAF fan games like to have an opening cutscene, but not Popgoes. This game will already get you on your toes by not even showing you the standard newspaper, just jumping right into night 1, wiping its balls all over my forehead. Fantastic. Something you'll notice immediately is the way that Popgoes handles the office. It's honestly probably the coolest office I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. It actually comes out of this game harder than you gooners come out of the closet. While in the office, which is hard to even call an office honestly, you will be able to look 360 degrees all around you, with 4 different directions to look in, all serving a different purpose. Although I will admit one of them doesn't really have any reason for existing, but we'll get into that later. Starting directly in front of us, we have our cameras, which are controlled by our phone, and some colorful buttons. Since this is where we'll be spending most of our time, I'll talk about this a bit later. Turning to our left, we can actually see one of the animatronics, and it's at this moment it becomes apparent that we are not in an office, but are rather just in a giant-ass room in the restaurant. This character's name is Blake the Badger, but he's harmless on this night, so as I've already said multiple times, we'll talk about him later. Turn left again to look behind us and we'll be able to see the actual fucking stage where all the characters are. Holy shit, my butthole just puckered and my penis just retracted up inside of my body. We are literally constantly next to almost every animatronic in the entire game. You might think that'll make just about everything in this game useless since they're already pretty much free to grab up on us, but as you'll learn throughout this video, these guys have a very, how should I say this, retarded thought process. Finally, turning once more to the left, we can see a window to the parking lot with a bird character standing outside. We'll talk about what he does later, but for right now, I want to talk about what actual purpose this window serves. On the bottom of the screen, you will see a panic meter. Naturally, throughout the night, it will rise, and looking at animatronics will cause this panic meter to rise faster. In order to make it decrease, you'll need to look to the right at the window. I guess looking outside makes you remember how much you enjoy touching grass. Just kidding. Being outside is scary, and it's summer right now, so it's really fucking hot. I'd rather die than go out there. Fun fact, as I'm writing this script, I'm not wearing a shirt because of how blazing hot it is, even though it's only 9:45 p.m. What kind of bullshit is this? Why is it so goddamn hot where I live? This shit is ass. Oh, and by the way, as I'm recording this, it's currently 11:48 p.m. and it's somehow gotten even hotter. Also, by the way, put your dick back in your pants. You're not going to see me shirtless. And stop imagining it too. I already know how weird you fucking freaks are. Yes, I read the comments. Behave. Anyways, if your panic meter increases all the way, you'll be unable to do literally anything. That includes turning to look in any direction, and Popgoes will very quickly dig in your butt. Want to hear a really cool fact about this? Turns out I'm actually the most retarded person on the face of the planet Earth. The phone guy explicitly describes that if we're feeling panicked to look outside. I swear to you, I had no fucking idea that the window to our right was a window to the outside. I knew it was a window, but for some reason I couldn't tell that it was to the outside of the building. I thought it was just another room inside the building, and I think the reason I thought that was because the animatronic could be seen through it, and I didn't think that they'd place an animatronic outside. But that still doesn't make sense, because what I thought you had to do was look at camera 10, which is a camera out in the parking lot. While this does seem to decrease your panic very slowly, I thought it was going to be impossible to beat this game because of how slowly it dropped. Again, keep in mind, I can see the crow animatronic in this camera, and it took borderline until night 3 for me to notice that yes, that window is outside, and by looking out of it, my panic will decrease a fuck ton faster. It looks like the panic meter don't exactly work very well though, bro. Like, look, you fucking jumping back up and shit. What am I supposed to do with this panic meter, bro? It like doesn't go down consistently at all. Dude, this is bullshit. What the fuck are you supposed to do? That's not possible. What the hell is that bullshit? What? What's the point of turning except to see? Like, what's the point of this? Like this area. Wait, that's the... Oh! I'm retarded. This is the fucking parking lot. He means literally... Guys, I'm actually fucking retarded. Holy shit, guys, I'm a fucking idiot. Oh my god, that has to be actually the fucking stupidest thing I've ever done in my whole life. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about our camera system. Looking at it at a first glance may seem a bit intimidating, but this game actually does a fantastic job at slowly introducing new mechanics. It's actually probably better at this than any other FNAF game I've ever played before. Let's just focus on what needs to be focused on during night 1 and ignore everything else until it becomes relevant. Obviously, you can switch through the cameras like any FNAF game, and the cameras in this game use no power. In fact, this game doesn't even have power to begin with, which I think is something we can all appreciate. The only other thing on the cameras we need to worry about is the room shutdown button. This button does exactly what you think it does, temporarily shuts down the power to a specific room. You'll notice you can only use this button on cameras that have this weird device on them, and if you can't tell what this is, it's a 3D printer. Why are there 3D printers here? Well, canonically, I'm pretty sure it's because the kids that come to the restaurant can print out their own animatronics or something like that. I don't really know. I was more focused on the phone guy talking about his boring ass life. I wasn't really paying attention to the actual story of the game very much. Where these 3D printers come into play during gameplay is when we talk about our boy, Popgoes the Weasel. Yes, we are actually introducing the main character of the game on night 1, something quite a few FNAF games don't like to do until later nights. Popgoes will leave his stage and head towards any room with a 3D printer, which by the way you can actually turn around and watch him leave via walking through the very room you're sitting in. Remember how I said the characters in this game make some pretty retarded decisions? Yeah, this is one of them. If Popgoes' goal is to kill me, why doesn't he just do it? He's literally directly behind me. It would not be hard at all. In fact, the only time he does kill you is when your panic meter gets too high. So, if he doesn't kill you himself, how is he a threat? Great question, and one I'm going to answer because, no shit, it'd be a pretty shitty review if I didn't explain anything. Once Popgoes enters a room with a 3D printer, he will attempt to print out a piece of a character called the Black Rabbit. It's literally just Shadow Bonnie from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. In order to stop him, you will have to shut down the room he's in before he prints it. This will make the printer turn off and will make him leave to go find another one. After a few seconds, the power to the room will automatically come back on, so you don't have to worry about losing sight of the room forever. Popgoes is completely relentless. The moment you shut down one room, it won't be long until he attacks another, which actually leads to a constant pressure gameplay loop. Typically something I would find unfun, but again, this game actually does it incredibly well, and I think it has everything to do with how well it introduces new mechanics. But back to Popgoes. If you don't shut down the room fast enough, he will print out a piece of the Black Rabbit and walk back to the office. If you turn around, you can actually catch him placing the piece he printed out on the table behind you. If he prints out every piece, the Black Rabbit will become active and immediately kill you. I personally never died to the Black Rabbit, which goes to show either how easy this game is or how much fun I had playing it that I was able to find a rhythm. I should briefly mention how the phone calls in this game work, since they're also quite a bit different from most I've seen. Unfortunately, the phone guy is British. I know that should be given a warning in and of itself, but let's try to move past that tragedy. After getting the typical phone guy spiel, you're given 3 options for things to ask him, and whatever you choose will actually give you some branching dialogue, giving a small bit of replayability to each night. One option usually elaborates on a mechanic, another usually does some lore dumping, and the final is typically just some silly fun. Small details, I'm telling you, they're what make me appreciate games the most. But after beating night 1 in typical FNAF game fashion, we're tossed into a post-night 8-bit minigame to do some lore dumping. Except this game actually does it a little different than other games do. Each minigame takes place in the same area. This weird red maze-ass area. I have no idea what the floor is supposed to be made of, but let's ignore that. In this minigame, we play as Stone the Crow. This is the same character that stands outside of your window in the parking lot, by the way. Each character you play as in this minigame will have a different path you need to follow, and a different item you can interact with. This is the route you need to take as Stone. Following this path will lead you to a balloon boy chained up. Once you see him, the minigame ends. However, if you want to get one of the special endings in this game, there is something you need to do first. In each minigame, you will be able to find a secret character named Simon. Once you find him, you will be transformed into what I'm going to call a purified version of the character. Once purified, if you head over to the balloon boy, instead of the game just ending, you'll actually be able to free him from his shackles. This will happen in every minigame, just with different paths and characters. Additionally, if you interact with Balloon Boy's hat before you reach his room, a short cutscene will play. And by cutscene, I mean a single fucking drawing. But hey, that's cool, I suppose. As far as I'm aware, looking at these drawings doesn't aid in getting you a special ending, just some fun extra lore to find. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, except they both do the exact same thing at the exact same time in the exact same way, so they're basically only one character. Those characters being Saffron and Sarah the Squirrels, aka this game's gooning material. Get your Jergens out, or just use your hand if you have foreskin because your parents don't love you. Saffron and Sarah, like Popgoes, can be seen on stage directly behind you. They too would prefer to do something incredibly complicated and retarded rather than just blow your back out from behind like any normal attacker would do in this situation. They introduce a new mechanic, your vents. As I'm sure you could guess from me saying that, these two travel through your vents in an attempt to drop down on you and sit on your face, which is exactly why I never stopped them. Anyways, you can toggle your vent camera on a majority of cameras around the building. Think of the map as a big roundabout these two have to go around. They start in camera 8, then go to 6, then 3, then 1, then 2, then 5, then 7, and finally arrive at your office. So you have plenty of time to stop them. But be warned, once they travel into a new vent, they will never go back under any circumstance. So really make sure you stay on top of them. Personally, I'm into femdoms, so I prefer to be on the bottom of them, but that's really not important. When you spot them in your vents, you must turn on your vent heater, which will cause lasers of all things to shoot down in the vent, blocking their path. The phone guy tells you that these lasers will stay on for 1 minute, except this game has a crazy twist, and the twist is that he fucking lied. The lasers actually only stay on for 9 seconds. Not 10, 9. Fuck me, I didn't want to see a nice round number anyways. Don't fret, you don't actually have to keep track and count in your head, as on your cameras a heat symbol will appear whenever your lasers are active, meaning that as long as you know how to use your eyes, you'll always be able to tell whether or not your lasers are on without constantly having to toggle vent to check. Kane could have easily not put this heat symbol in the game, and without changing any mechanics, it would have made it a fuckload more difficult. But Kane cares about video game balancing, and I really respect him for that. If the squirrels get all the way through the vent, they will appear in the vent directly above your head. If you look up, you'll be able to see them peeking down at you. Much like Popgoes, these girls actually never attack you. Instead, what they do is snatch up your phone like a frat boy snatches up Easy Cooter. Obviously, without your phone, you won't be able to switch cameras, meaning Popgoes will be free to build up the black rabbit and you'll be done for. However, it's much more likely that your rapidly climbing panic meter will get you killed first. Anyways, on to the post-night minigame. This time we play as Saffron and we're tasked with finding Toy Freddy. Very similar to last night, we can find Simon, become purified, and free Toy Freddy from his shackles. Oh yeah, and additionally can view another picture with some loud-ass music playing as well. Lore or something! Also, by the way, here's the path you need to take. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Blake the Badger. However, I first want to talk about a threat I haven't mentioned thus far, Stone the Crow. He actually has two different attacks, one that becomes active early in the game and one that doesn't become active until a later night. Both of his attacks are actually the most threatening and annoying out of any character in the entire game. Crazy how one character can have multiple ass-erupting problems that I hate. His early attack has him just be an annoying prick. He will occasionally appear on your cameras and block your entire view. This prevents you from seeing Popgoes, which is obviously not great. But if that wasn't enough, when you look at him, your panic meter actually increases way faster than normal. And want to know the coolest part? The higher your panic, the more commonly he appears on your cameras. That's a fucking wombo combo if I've ever seen one before. Holy shit. Leave my poor anus alone. It's had enough. In order to make him stop appearing on the cameras, you obviously have to lower your panic. Ironically, by staring at him out in the parking lot. Let's just pretend like that makes sense. Anyways, now I can talk about Blake the Badger, a character who is literally just fun. As I mentioned previously, Blake can be seen directly to your left. This, by the way, is the direction that is pretty much useless to look in. Along with seeing Blake, you can also see the door to the server room in this direction. If you look this way long enough, you'll see Blake walk into this server room. You can view the server room on your cameras where you can see Blake present. This camera is one of the reasons why watching him move real time doesn't matter, because you'll be checking the cameras consistently anyways. Blake has you play Simon Says. Hey, Simon! Like the guy in the minigames. I wonder if that's a coincidence. Once Blake is in the server room, he will set the monitor inside to a certain color. On your desk, you will see 5 different buttons, each with a differently colored circle on them. What you need to do is click the circle that's the same color as the monitor in the server room, and then press the Blake button next to your monitor to call him over so we can check if you chose correctly. When you call him, by the way, he will literally come right up to you. If you turn to the left, you will see him staring right at you, which kind of startled me the first time I saw it. If you got the colors right, he won't attack you and will go back to minding his own business. Get it wrong and you're obviously fucked. Want to hear another reason why looking to the left is not worth it? Well, if Blake happens to be there because he's checking on your color, if you look at him, your panic meter will increase drastically. So there is literally never a good reason to look to your left, ever, so just don't. Night 3's post-night minigame has you play as Sarah. I'm sure you can already guess what you need to do. Find Simon, become fearified, and find my wife toy Chica and free her from her shackles, and then let her use those shackles on me so she can have her way with me. But let's leave Chica and I alone while you guys move on to Night 4. Oh yeah, and here's the path. Night 4's new threat is Stone the Crow. While yes, I've already established his camera blocking threat, that's not the only threat he has, as I've already mentioned. This is the night where his much more annoying problem arises. If you are to look out of the window for too long, Stone will turn his head towards you and, I'm not joking, make the most ear-piercing, skull-fucking degrading screech I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm not lying. It's actually the loudest noise in the whole game, and it scared the fuck out of me every single time I heard it. Oh, for fuck. My goddamn ears, bro. When he turns his head at you, your panic meter will increase faster than anything else that causes it to increase. Like, I'm talking fast as fuck. Usain Bolt type shit. Obviously, turning away will cause him to stop staring, and you'll be able to look at him again to decrease your panic that he so rudely increased. This does bring up an interesting dilemma and will force you to come up with a new strategy when playing. You know that looking out the window for too long will cause him to look at you, but you also need to keep your panic empty so he doesn't appear on the cameras. So you need to figure out a proper way to both deal with Popgoes, the squirrels, and Blake, while also looking out of the window frequently enough to not cause Stone to look at you, while also keeping your panic meter completely empty so he doesn't appear on the cameras. Because once your pattern breaks, it will be very difficult and stressful to get yourself back on track. Night 4's post-night minigame has you play as Blake. Here's the path you have to follow to get to Mangle, but remember to find Simon and purify yourself first. I'll never understand the attraction some people have to Mangle. I don't even see how sex with her would be fun. She's a fucked up mess of wires. Even if you could figure out how to get it done, you'd borderline have to be a contortionist in order to not get yourself injured while doing the deed. Anyways, on to Night 5. Night 5 doesn't introduce any new threat, just being a harder version of Night 4, so I'll use this time to talk about Simon and how he appears in the nights. That's right, Simon himself does appear in each night. However, I never saw him throughout my playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dxtr Black, and that's because of how specific finding him is. Each night he will appear in a certain room at a certain time, only for a few seconds, which is why I never saw him. When you find him, you will need to click on one of your Simon Says buttons that corresponds to the color of his eyes. When you do, he will say something to you. I guess it being Simon Says wasn't a coincidence after all. On night 1, he will appear in the arcade's vent camera at the 526th second of the night. That's right, it's actually that specific. His eye color will be red and he will say the following.
Simon Says.
On night 2, he'll appear in the birthday room camera at the 116th second. His eyes will be pink and he'll say the following.
Keep finding me. I'll tell you everything.
On night 3, he'll appear in the parking lot camera on the 472nd second. His eyes will be blue and he'll say this.
Oh, brother. He must be so fond of him.
On night 4, he'll appear in the staff room at the 342nd second of the night. His eyes will be yellow and he'll say the following.
Do you think you know who he is? The truth is behind this door.
And at night 5, he'll appear in the hallway camera at the 273rd second of the night. His eyes will be green and he will say this.
He doesn't want to remember. We can help him tomorrow.
Overall, a pretty cool bit of extra lore in a very fun and interactive way. Again, I'm in love with little details like this. Also, here's another fun fact. If you stare at Simon's screen in the extras menu for too long, your game will crash, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, onto the post-night minigame. Here you play as Popgoes. Here's the path you have to take to find the worst FNAF character ever designed, Toy Bonnie. And as always, don't forget to find Simon and purify yourself. God, I fucking hate Toy Bonnie. He's the main reason why Five Nights at Freddy's 2 sucks as much dick and balls as it does. I know people have found a way to make 1020 mode not random, but fuck you. He's still a bag of dicks. Night 6 once again adds no new threats, just being the hardest non-custom night in the entire game, really amping up the game's difficulty. I want to talk about two things during this night. This game does probably the best job I've seen at making a challenging experience without being frustrating, janky, or awkward. This night is definitely hard, requiring you to be precise with your mouse, quick with your thinking, and requiring a lot of nerve control throughout. But never throughout my playthrough did I feel like the game was unfair or that there was too much RNG involved. This game is a perfect balance of challenging and engaging. I've truly never seen another FNAF game pull it off as well as this game has. Additionally, Simon can be found on this night as well. I didn't talk about it last night because the way you find him in this night is without a doubt one of the coolest things in the whole game. He'll appear in the station on the 273rd second of the night. You might be wondering what the station is, and the station is literally the room you are sitting in. Simon will appear on the table directly behind you. He leans in so close you can feel his breath on the nape of your neck. It might turn some people on, but it personally makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Anyways, his eyes will be white and he'll say the following.
You wanted to save her, and I will make his wish come true. Thank you, Strings.
If you've done everything correctly in the post-night minigame so far, you'll be put into the 6th night post-night minigame where you play as the Black Rabbit. Finding Simon, you'll realize he looks different, appearing to be glitching as the purple guy, and upon purifying, you seem to become Spring Bonnie, implying that either Simon has been William Afton the whole time, or that Popgoes has been trying to construct William Afton the whole time. Continuing forward, you find a man and kill him. This man being Fritz, or Jeremy Fitzgerald, the phone guy who's been talking to us throughout the nights. Hold the fuck up. The phone guy has been Jeremy Fitzgerald, aka the person we play as in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Again, keep in mind that anything that happens in the official FNAF games from the 4th game and beyond are not canon in Popgoes. Throughout the game, Fritz talks about an accident he had at Freddy's, never going into specific detail as to what it was. I'm going to take a guess he was either the Bite of 87 victim or the Bite of 83 victim, since he also mentioned that he used to work for Freddy's. You might think that it can't be the bite of 87 because we already know that that was a child, and Fritz mentions that the accident happened when he was a teenager. But again, remember that we learned it was a child in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which isn't canon to this game, so it could be up in the air. If you have a better idea, or you know I'm wrong as fuck, let me know in the comments. I love reading your guys' corrections. During the last night of this game, Fritz asks us a question. Would we forgive someone who did something terrible, given that we've known the person for a long time? Then, instead of getting to ask him a question at the end of the call like every other night, we're instead only given the option of selecting yes or no, with no response given after our answer. I'm going to assume that this hypothetical question is about William Afton after he did what he did to the children. Fritz mentions earlier in the call that he feels like William probably had a good reason to do what he did. Fritz knew William and didn't want to believe he killed the kids with no good reason. I think he asks us that question in an attempt to make himself not feel so alone in wanting to forgive him. After killing Fritz in the final minigame, one last cutscene plays out. We're back in our office and we watch as Simon approaches us and stares deep into our eyes, making us fall in love. No, I'm kidding. I mean, he does stare at us, but I highly doubt it's for that reason. And with that, we get the grave ending. As far as I'm aware, this game's version of a true ending. And that's where Popgoes comes to a close. Overall, I actually love this game. Originally going into it, I was nervous that this video was going to be another hit piece like Jolly, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised when it turned out to be a very enjoyable experience. I truly think that this game has the best difficulty balancing of any FNAF game I've ever played. Each mechanic feels solid and has great synergy with every other mechanic, without having the game feel unfair and overwhelming while still providing a satisfying challenge. The story isn't too convoluted, and there's not a lot of garbage hoops to jump through to be able to experience it, which for someone like me, who dreads learning the lore in games, can really appreciate. Because of all of these reasons, I'm placing Popgoes in my top 10 favorite FNAF games of all time. I honestly really enjoyed my time with this game, and I highly recommend all of you give it a try. You won't regret it. Also, I'm aware that Popgoes is getting a remake, and I'm incredibly excited to review that when it comes out. But what do you think? Do you agree with me? Or is Popgoes actually fucking doo-doo ass garbage and I have no idea what I'm talking about? Let me know in the comments below. As of writing this, my Jolly video hasn't come out, so I don't have a question to pull a favorite comment from, and I need to get this video to my editor. One of my favorite genres of games is roguelikes. I also, as I'm sure you could have guessed, really like Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've only built a whole career off of it, so I'm sure you could have figured that out. So I bet you can imagine my pleasant surprise when I was told that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's game that was also a roguelike. The moment I learned of this, I downloaded it as fast as I could and started filming videos because I just knew even before playing it that it was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. You guys know what game I'm talking about. You can see the length of this video. I very clearly like this game a lot. So sit back, relax, and join me as we dive into the chaotic world of Too Many Nights. Unlike most FNAF games, Too Many Nights doesn't follow any storyline or the typical FNAF formula. Instead, it acts as an endless minigame that doesn't stop until you fail. Although I'm sure you already knew that considering everyone on Earth has played a roguelike before. At the start of each run, you will get to pick a character, of which there are many. Each character gives you a different set of abilities, with each having a list of pro and cons. You don't start with all of them and will have to gradually unlock them by doing specific tasks. I'll go over them in a bit. After picking a character, you will have to select 3 animatronics to put into the pizzeria. And this is where this game gets brilliant. You get to choose 3 animatronics yourself. The game will never choose them for you, and your initial choices will be random at the start of each run. However, if you really don't like your starting options, you can press R to re-roll your first pick as much as you'd like. As I'm sure you could have guessed, there are several animatronics in Too Many Nights. Each has a unique mechanic, and it will be up to you to plan out which animatronics you bring along, and control how they will be forced to interact with each other. Each animatronic falls into a certain category. You have your door animatronics, your camera animatronics, your mask animatronics, your vent animatronics, your flashlight animatronics, and what I'm going to call your nuisance animatronics. Each of these categories serves its own purpose. And generally speaking, picking multiple animatronics from the same category will make your gameplay experience easier. Before I really start talking about the characters, I'd like to explain the rest of the experience of a run. To start, after selecting your first 3 animatronics, the run will begin. After completing a night, you will be forced to add 1 new character. Every few nights, you will also be forced to add a penalty. These penalties fall into 2 categories: your general penalties and your character penalties. I'll dive into each of these later as well. After selecting a penalty, you may get the chance to go to the shop and buy some items. Throughout the night, you will gain Faz coins from successfully defending yourself from the animatronics. Once again, I will get into these items later. Keep repeating this process until you eventually die, and boom, that's the gameplay loop of Too Many Nights. Of course, that was a very oversimplified explanation. So now we're going to dive into each of the animatronics, how they work, and to keep it interesting, I'll even throw each character into a tier list so that you can all argue about it in the comments. But hold up, guys. I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption. Let's talk about everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I'm just going to go down the list that appears on the wiki, and be prepared, there are a lot of animatronics. Editor, I'd say I'm sorry for what you're about to have to do, but that would be a lie. Let's go. Freddy is a camera animatronic, aka my personal least favorite type of animatronic. Freddy will start on stage and make his way towards your right door. All you have to do is occasionally stare at him on the cameras to make him go backwards. I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to like a majority of these camera animatronics. If he ever reaches your door, he will never leave and you'll be forced to keep it closed for the rest of the night or die. Freddy also has 5 penalties that have the option to be chosen when you have to select a penalty. The first is Mad Freddy, which will make you have to look at Freddy longer to make him go backwards. His second penalty is Branched, which gives him a chance to be able to attack your left door as well. And when you're playing this game, you will very quickly fall into a pattern, so having a character be able to switch up on you like this would very obviously throw you off. Stare Down is another Freddy penalty. This one is horrific. It makes Freddy never move backwards. Staring at him will only stall him. However, to compensate, he moves a lot slower, and the camera doesn't have to be up for you to be able to stall him. Invisifreddy is a penalty that I'm sure you could take a solid guess at what it does. That's right, it makes him fucking invisible. Isn't that great? Sure, a sound cue is added to his movements, but fuck that. That just sounds like AIDS. Finally, we have Nuh-uh, a penalty that's just so silly. When Freddy gets to your door, he will prevent the door from ever closing again throughout the rest of the night. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't? Yeah, I know. Don't choose this one if you can help it. Overall, I'm not a fan of Freddy, but without penalties, he isn't the worst character in this game, so I'm going to give him a C tier. Bonnie is a door character, aka a character I usually like to pick. Bonnie starts on stage and makes his way to your left door. Once there, a sound cue will play and you'll have to close the door and stare at him on the camera until he goes away. Then you can open the door again. Incredibly easy character, however he does have 3 penalties. Cutting is a penalty that makes both Bonnie and Chica take shorter paths to your doors. Because of how easy both of them are to deal with, this penalty isn't too bad. Quiet Steps makes Bonnie and Chica not make sound cues while at your door, so yeah, fuck that. No other words need to be said. And finally, Flip Side is a penalty that will make Bonnie and Chica swap doors immediately after leaving the first door. Easily the second worst penalty these two have. Speaking of Bonnie and Chica, Chica is literally identical to Bonnie, except she attacks the right door instead of the left. And because of this, and how quick I am to pick these two, I'm putting both of them in S tier. Foxy isn't the worst character I've seen, but I did avoid choosing him for a very long time. Foxy will try to leave his stage in the ticket booth. Have your camera on him to stall him. If you don't, he'll charge at your door and bang on it, and make you lose a poop sock full of power. Foxy has 3 penalties and 1 item, which is pretty cool. Insta-Foxy is a penalty that will cause Foxy to instantly start in his last phase at the start of a night. This penalty actually isn't that bad at all, just let him charge right away and it's like the penalty isn't even there anymore. Hen House is a penalty that forces the camera to be up to stall Foxy, which actually is the most cancerous thing I've ever heard of. Haywire is the final penalty, which will make him attack your other door directly after attacking the first door. The only bad part about this is that him banging on your door drains power. And the item that Foxy has is called Good Guy, which makes Foxy not a threat. Looking at him will make him progress, and when he comes to your office, he'll give you a nice little gift like a good boy. Because of how much of a non-issue he is if you balance him properly with the other characters, I'm putting him in B tier. Mangle is a vent animatronic, and she's honestly not that big of a problem. She'll move through the cameras into one of your vents. All you have to do is put your mask on when she's in a vent. She will enter the office for a short period and then leave. I personally hate having to use the mask in this game, so I try my best to avoid characters that force that, but Mangle is probably the easiest of them. Mangle does have 3 penalties. Anger Management is a penalty that makes looking at Mangle speed her up. Aggressive Mangle is a penalty that makes Mangle force you to put the mask on for longer. And finally, Slithering In is a penalty that causes looking at Mangle in the vents to make her immediately appear in your office. Overall, I hate the mask mechanic. However, Mangle isn't the worst mask character in the game, so I'm giving her a C tier. Caroline, or the Marionette, behaves exactly how you'd expect her to. She's a music box. Hooray! Who could have expected that? If the music box winds down, for the rest of the night she will randomly teleport to a camera with a sound cue at random intervals. You will have to find her and stare at her if you don't want her to kill you. She does, however, have a whopping 6 fucking penalties, so that's just amazing. Let's go over all of them quickly. Winding down makes you have to wind the music box for longer. Moving box makes the music box move to a random camera every time you pull the camera down. AIDS. Muted music makes her not make a sound cue when she teleports to a camera. Show Stealer gives you less time to find her while she's away from the music box. Last Stand is really ass, by the way. When it turns 6 AM, Caroline will teleport to a random camera, and the night will only end once you find her. Dude, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't do anything about that. That's just fucking cooked, bro. I can't do nothing about that. And finally, the worst penalty yet, Caroline Carousel, which will make her be away from the music box the entire night. Genuinely, never pick this penalty. Caroline is definitely annoying, but in all honesty, the music box is pretty forgiving until much later nights. So, because of this, I'm only putting her in D tier. Lizzie is the first non-FNAF canon character we'll be talking about. Fun fact, there are a lot of non-canon characters, but I think that's what adds to this game's charm. Lizzie herself isn't actually the threat. She spawns down bitty buds in your office while your camera is up. Simply hold your flashlight on them and they'll disappear. If there are too many, they'll call Lizzie and she will then kill you. Lizzie has 2 different penalties as well. Speedy Bud will make the bitty buds call Lizzie to your office faster, and Help Wanted will turn the brightly colored bitty buds into dark colored plush Lizzies, which are much harder to see in the very purple office. Lizzie is one of my favorite characters to see in my runs. I love flashlight characters, and I really love office characters. So because of this, I'm giving her S tier. BB is a bitch, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. And of course, they gave him the worst mechanic of all time. At random times, he will teleport to a random camera with a sound cue.
Hello?
You will have to find which camera he's on and hold the flashlight on him.
Bye-bye.
If that wasn't bad enough, his penalties make him even worse. Mute BB makes him not make a sound cue, which is actually just fucking torment. Don't pick this. I'm Moving will make him teleport to a second camera after you find him the first time. Little asshole. And Aggressive BB will force you to hold the light on him for longer. Literally, fuck that. I'm sure from the tone in my voice, you can tell I really don't like BB, so because of that, I'm obviously giving him an F tier. Sparky the dog is a camera character that makes me piss blood. He's in the storage room and has 4 phases he will move through before appearing in your office and forcing you to put the mask on for a decently long time. To prevent this, all you have to do is stare at him on the cameras, something I've already made clear I'm not a super huge fan of. He also has 3 penalties if your urine wasn't already red enough. Mad Sparky will force you to look at him on the cameras for longer to push him back. Sparky Speedy will make Sparky move faster, obviously. and aggressive Sparky will make you put the mask on longer if he enters the office. I don't like camera characters. I hate the idea of staring at a character to stop them. D tier. Percy Poodle, yes, from Playtime with Percy, is easily one of the best characters in the game. Being an office flashlight animatronic, all he does is have multiple phases in front of the big office window. He'll start pounding on the glass in his final phase, and you'll then have to hold the flashlight on him to make him go back. He also only has 2 penalties, and both of them really aren't that bad. Aggressive Percy will make him only go back to his last stage the first time you deal with him, but only the first time, so who cares? And Mute Percy makes him make no sound cue when he's pounding on the glass, so just open your eyes and this won't be a problem. Percy is simple. Percy is always an easy pick. S tier. Rowan Rat, on the other hand, is actual fucking torment. At random times, he will appear in any of the 4 corners of the building. When you see him in one, shock him and he'll go away. You will also have the ability to use a radar to detect where he is and where he's going. Oh yeah, and you only have a certain number of shocks, so that's just terrible. He has 4 possible penalties, and all of them are worse than death. Aggressive Rowan gives you less time to shock him. No radar removes the fucking radar, making you constantly have to check all 4 corners yourself. Less shocks obviously gives you less shocks, as the name would suggest. And Invisi-Rowan makes him fucking invisible. Fuck that. Never in a million years am I picking that shitty option. Rowan by himself isn't the worst, but if you get any of his penalties, which will happen eventually, he becomes a nightmare. So I'm putting him in D tier. Maple is almost a good character, but because it's not the only character you'll be up against, it's hard to find it as an attractive pick. At the beginning of each night, it will require you to collect a certain amount of plushies. This number increases with its AI value. You will then have to search around the cameras for these plushies. If you don't find them all before 6 AM, it'll kill you. Amazing mechanic, but again, it's not the only one, so it's really just more of a pain in the ass. It does have 3 penalties. What are those? Well, Early Killer will have it check if you have the plushies at 5 AM rather than 6. Hidden Counter will literally just make it not tell you how many plushies you need to find, which is bullshit. And Restock will add a timer to how fast you need to find the plushies. If you don't find them in time, it'll re-hide all the plushies again, forcing you to find them all in pretty much one go. Again, it's not the worst, but can easily get out of control on later nights when you start to only focus on certain cameras while it has the large plushie counter. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Noelle is another very interesting character that easily has the chance to be forgotten about. When you start the night, a pair of scissors will appear on a random camera. At complete random, Noelle can appear in the office with a sound cue. When it does, you need to find the scissors and click them to make it go away. The scissors will then teleport to another random camera. If you don't click the scissors, it'll force you to put the mask on for a few seconds, which is a long time in this game. Noelle, of course, has 3 penalties. Pull down will make it forcefully pull down the camera when it enters your office, which could honestly be seen as a good thing. Bro, that's not okay. I fucked myself. Having the force pull down from Noelle mixed with the Roby absolutely fucking creamed my ass, dude. Aggressive Noelle is terrible. When it enters your office, if you click any camera aside from the one with the scissors, it will immediately make you put the mask on. And Crazed Teddy will cause it to insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. A certain item does affect Noelle, however. If you have Chill Pill, you will get 4 additional seconds to put the mask on when it attacks you, which is a lot of time in this game. I'm not a huge fan of Noelle, especially not when it has Aggressive on, so because of this, I'm going to put it in C tier. Melatonin is a real bitch of a character. It moves around the cameras, but it's invisible when it does. You'll hear it laughing in one of your ears, and on the 3rd laugh, you'll have to close the door of whichever side it's on until you hear it leave. It has 2 penalties that just serve as the salt in the wound as well. Switch Up is easily the worst. Before it moves, you'll have to check the dining room to see a counter for how many laughs it'll have before attacking, now being randomized from 2 to 4. Unplanned only makes its first laugh on the correct side, needing you to remember which side it was originally on. I don't like characters that I can't see. I also find it really hard to keep a timer in your head like you need to do with Melatonin, so because of this, I'm putting it in D tier. Lydia is a dog. She'll be in the ticket booth in a fucking cage where she belongs. When you hear her banging on the cage, you'll have to take her out like Ol Yeller. Just kidding, you actually just have to hold the cage until that dumb mutt shuts up. The wiki for some reason doesn't have a page for her, and since I avoided her at all costs, I actually never experienced any of her penalties. But if I had to guess, I'd bet one of them makes you hold her cage for longer and another makes her not make noise when she's attacking. But going off of how I know her to be with no penalties, I'm going to put her in C tier. Amber is a character that at first didn't seem too bad, but will very quickly become a run killer. She begins at the entrance. At random times, she'll hold up a playing card with a suit on it. You will then have to click the corresponding suit on the cameras or she'll kill you. The 2 penalties she has might actually be the most evil ones in the entire game. Follow suit will give her the ability to have more than 1 card, and 52 pickup will make that number of cards she can hold literally be any number, which is so retarded I can't even begin to explain why you shouldn't pick this, so just don't. I thought Amber would be great, but I very quickly started to avoid her whenever I could. C tier. CG is annoying, a nuisance character, but not very hard to deal with unless you get unlucky. She will randomly move around the cameras, and if you look at her on the cameras for too long, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. Her penalties aren't really the worst, however. Aggressive CG will make you put the mask on for longer, and Insta CG will make her enter your office if you look at her, period, even if only for a fraction of a second. However, a monitor is added to your office showing exactly where she is at all times so that you can easily avoid her. There are much worse nuisance characters, and if you don't have any of her penalties, she really isn't a problem. B tier. Dsam, I'm gonna say Sam, is a character I never once chose throughout my playthrough. You may think that makes me a bad reviewer, but I personally think that makes me someone who values not killing myself. Sam will slowly walk back and forth in front of your window with some sound cues. Before he gets to a door, you will have to close it, making him a character you pretty much always have to be watching. He has 2 penalties. Quiet Sam removes his sound cues, and Invisa Sam forces you to only use his sound cues. So pick your poison, dumbass, or even better, just don't pick this character. D tier. Roby is torture. I thought he wouldn't be so bad, and let's just say I wasn't so right. He sits in your office with a timer on his eye. When it reaches 0, you must have your mask on or you will die. He has 2 penalties that are all equally terrible. Mute Roby removes the sound cue he makes right before waking up. Awoken Roby makes him stay awake longer, forcing you to put the mask on longer. I'm dead serious. Don't pick this character. He is horrific. F tier. Alexis is simple, but very easy to forget about, especially on later nights. She will randomly wander around the cameras. If you pull the camera down while on the camera she's at, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. So you'll have to switch cameras before pulling them down. She also has 3 penalties. Aggressive Alexis makes her act like CG, where looking at her for too long will also make her attack you. Sneaky Ghost will only make her appear on a camera after you look at it for a second, and Crazed Ghost will insta-kill you instead of making you put the mask on. If you are diligent and aren't an idiot, Alexis is not an issue. But because of how fast you'll be switching through cameras on later nights, I can't give her any higher than a B tier. Onion is another character I never choose. When you pull up the cameras, there's a chance he'll be on them and quickly run left or right. You will have to close the corresponding door. If you close both, he'll drain a bunch of power. Again, for some reason he doesn't have a wiki page, so I don't know what his penalties are, but just knowing what he does, I'm going to put him in C tier. T-Generic is a very annoying character who I only choose if every other character was ass. He will be in the entrance with an arrow on his face. Once he leaves the entrance, he will go to whichever vent he was pointing to, and you'll have to stare at him in that vent until he goes away. If he gets into your office, you'll have to put the mask on for a very long time. He has 3 penalties that somehow make him even more annoying. Crazed Robot will make him insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. How About I Do Anyway will make him enter your office regardless of if you looked at him in the vents or not. However, if you did look at him, you'll have to put the mask on for a shorter amount of time. And Glitched will make T-Generic sometimes switch what vent he's going to, making his arrows completely useless. He's a character that breaks the rules and that breaks my balls. D tier. Kaiden acts in much the same way as T-Generic. He'll start in the entrance holding a sign with an arrow pointing left or right. Once he leaves with a sound cue, you'll have to close whichever door he was pointing to. He of course has penalties that make him silent and make him go in the opposite direction the sign was pointing to. I've actually picked Kaiden multiple times because if you can avoid his annoying penalties, he's an incredibly easy character to deal with, since you can close both doors when you hear his sound cue for about 2 seconds and not have any additional penalties. A tier. The ink monstrosity is always an immediate pick for me. It starts in your office on the ceiling and slowly creeps down. Hold your flashlight on it to force it back up. The best part is it'll basically teleport all the way back up when you flash the light on him, but that's where his penalties come into play. Stubborn will make you have to hold your light on him, removing the loveliness of this character, but overall still isn't too bad. Head Start will make the ink monstrosity start halfway down in your office and won't be able to go all the way back up to the top. Easily the worst penalty this character has. I love this character, always an immediate choice for me. S tier. Robo Popcakes is a character I initially avoided, but eventually grew to really like picking. At random, he'll spawn on your cameras. Not a specific one, he'll just be an overlay. You will have to match up 2 patterns using the arrows on the overlay, and once you do, he'll disappear. If you don't do it in time, you'll die. This character is always one I liked choosing because of how likely I am to pick characters like Bonnie and Chica, because while I stare at them on the cameras, I can deal with RoboCake, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He has 2 penalties. X = X minus 2 gives you 2 less seconds to align his face, and pop time will only cause time to progress when you complete a Robo Popcakes attack. Overall, even with max penalties, Robo Popcakes isn't a terrible character. A tier. Entity 12 is pure masochism. They'll start in the storage or maintenance and move down your hall. Watch them on the cameras to make it go back. If they get to your office, they'll make you put the mask on for a long ass time. And get this, the 2 penalties they add doesn't make it any better. Aggressive Entity 12 will make you put the mask on for the rest of the fucking night if it gets into your office. And Run Killer will literally start with it inside of your office and it will never leave. Literally fuck that, fuck this character, F tier. Mura is a character I'd highly recommend not picking if you have other characters that don't want you spamming through cameras, because you will have to be doing that a lot with Mira. Mira will be in the kitchen the entire night and will require you to feed her candy. If you don't feed her enough, you'll die. Candy will randomly spawn throughout the cameras, so you'll have to surf through them to click on them. The penalties she adds are brutal. Savory Tooth makes candy spawn less. Small Plate puts a small cap on the amount of candies you can hold at a time, and Sweet and Sour adds sour candies that will remove a candy from your candy counter if you click on them. So if you've been working your muscle memory this whole time and get this penalty, have fun clicking on every single sour one all the time. I'm not a fan of the camera surfing this character brings, and I'd much rather prefer to just ignore picking her. D tier. The Ringmaster is an interesting character. He'll randomly spawn on your cameras. When you see him, you'll have to flip the camera down and greet him in your office. If you switch cameras, he'll make you put the mask on for a long time. Crazed Magician is a penalty that will make clicking off of his camera just instantly kill you. And Masked Magician will make flipping down the camera always make you put the mask on, but for less time than usual. I don't love picking Ringmaster, but I will usually end up choosing him later in a run. B tier. The entity is someone who gives me AIDS. They will randomly spawn on your cameras in 3 locations, except only one of them is actually real. You'll be able to tell because the fakes will be more transparent. Again, for some reason their wiki isn't available and I never actually chose any of their penalties, so I'm not totally sure what they are. But I hate find them on the camera characters. You guys know that. D tier. No VA is a character I only dealt with once, acting as probably the most nuisance characters of all the nuisance characters. No VA will randomly move around your cameras. You will have to avoid clicking on the camera it's on, or you'll have to put on the mask. On lower AI levels, the camera it's on will be marked with green, making it very easy to see. As the AI goes up, it'll get harder and harder, eventually becoming fucking invisible. And let me tell you, the penalties make it even worse, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Malware makes clicking on No VA's camera kill you instantly. Spamware makes No VA on multiple cameras at a time, and adware creates an adware window on your cameras. If you don't close it fast enough, it will force you to look at No VA's camera. I actually think this character is really cool, and I think that its penalties are actually super interesting. Aside from malware, that one is AIDS. I still don't love picking this character though, because I hate mask characters. So because of this, I'm giving no VA C tier. Moldy is a character that is a really good pick for early game, but late game will easily become a character you will forget about. Whenever you pull down your camera, there's a chance he'll be in your office. If he is, you'll have to hold your light on him for a while, or you'll have to put the mask on. He has 2 penalties. Aggressive Moldy will make you have to shine your light on him for longer, and Crazed Mold will make pulling up the camera while he's in your room instantly kill you. Again, early game, he's amazing, but you will very quickly forget about him once more characters start to get added. So because of this, I'm giving him B tier. Rita Rabbit is thick, but that's not important. What is how she works. She sits on her fat ass in the arcade slowly attempting to leave. All you have to do is hold the flashlight on her to make her go away. Honestly, not that bad of a character if you pair her with other arcade characters, which there is a decent amount of. She has 2 penalties. Aggressive Rita will make you hold your flashlight on her longer, and Cheeky Rabbit will make her move faster the longer you're not looking at her camera. If you know how to stack her with other characters properly, Rita shouldn't be a problem even if you have her penalties. A tier. Coral is another character that I love seeing as an option to pick. Coral will randomly appear at either of your doors with no sound cue, so you'll have to make sure you're paying attention. Simply close the door he's at and he'll knock, letting you know he's left. He has 2 different penalties. Blinding will make you additionally hold the flashlight on him for a while, and making sure will force you to have your camera down while the door is closed in order for him to leave. I love this character, he's super easy to deal with, S tier. Shrimp is another character that just makes me giddy with joy whenever I see her. Shrimp will occasionally spawn some shrimp food in your office on either side. Whichever side it's on is the side you have to close the door of until the shrimp food disappears. The 2 penalties she adds are easily some of the best to deal with. Big Shrimpin' is a penalty that will cause the shrimp food to have the chance to be really big. If it's really big, you just have to close both doors. And Small Shrimpin' gives the food the chance to have the lid off. If it is, all you have to do is close the door to the opposite side of the food. Shrimp is incredibly easy to deal with, she's satisfying to deal with, and she doesn't use the fucking cameras, which I love. Easy S tier. Worm is the next character we have to talk about, and I avoided this guy like the plague. I was very scared of how it was going to work, so I never actually ended up using it. Worm will start in the dining room and go down your right hall and will stay there until you open the door. When you open the door, it'll crawl through your office. Avoid looking at it either by using the mask or looking at the cameras until it leaves. It also has 2 penalties. Snail makes it move across the office slower, and Digger will make Worm add another bar of power usage while it's at your door. Worm just seems like a character that would completely disrupt the flow of the night, and because of that, I'm putting it in D tier. Kyle and Bob are the 2 next assholes I want to talk about, and these guys are weird, and also really shitty and confusing, and I don't fully understand them. Kyle and Bob are 2 separate animatronics, but they work in tandem. Both of them are vent characters. If Kyle, the yellow one, enters your vent, you have to look at him on the camera or he will enter your office and make you use the mask. If Bob is in your vent, you can't look at him on the cameras or he'll enter your office and make you use the mask. The only problem is, I was never able to figure out how to tell which one entered the vent. At first, I thought maybe they'd alternate and I'd have to remember, but then during one run, Kyle attacked twice in a row. So I'm thinking there has to be something I'm misunderstanding about these 2. Of course, they each have 2 penalties. Crazed Sun makes them instantly kill you if they enter your office, and Eclipsed will make one of them invisible while the other is in the vent. I tried to like these guys, but because I'm retarded and can't fully figure them out, they were never for me. D tier. Magi is a pretty interesting character. He will consistently walk back and forth in front of your window. At random, he will make a sound cue letting you know he's about to attack.
Come on, go, go.
When he does, you have to close the door to the side he's on, leading to you needing to keep track and remember which side he's on at all times. This isn't too bad for someone like me who tries to be able to stay in the office as much as possible. Magi has 3 penalties. Reach around will change the way his sound cues work. If he says
surprise
or
you won't see this one coming,
you will then need to close the door to the opposite side he's on. This can be confusing for obvious reasons. Do it myself is a penalty that will make Magi attack the opposite door whenever you deal with his puppet the first time. And Invisimagi makes him fucking invisible, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Magi is not my favorite, but I have no problem picking him later in the run when things are getting tight. B tier. Mallory, on the other hand, is torture. She stays in the ticket booth. At random, she will hold up any amount of fingers on one hand. You will then have to flash her with the flashlight that many times. If you flash her too many times or not enough, she will dash at your door 15 times. This is AIDS. And I can't even lie, 15 times? Why so many? Seems a bit overkill, don't you think? But let's talk about her penalties, which she has 3 of. Ambidextrous will make her be able to show you up to 8 fingers. DoorDash will make her charge 20 fucking times instead of 15, and DoorDash EX makes her charge your doors for the entire night. Easily one of the most bullshit characters when you have her penalties on, but if you can avoid choosing them, she's only really ass because her hand is conveniently behind the fucking camera map. D tier. Roy is one of the only camera animatronics I can actually stomach. He starts in the dining room and slowly makes his way to your office. You can lure him to a previous camera by holding your flashlight on them. Since he's a moth, he's attracted to the light. He only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Roy, which will just make you have to hold the light for longer to get him to move. Overall, very solid character, and not too annoying to handle until his AI value gets really high. A tier. Silly is kinda silly. Fuck, editor, cut that out. Silly is my favorite vent animatronic. He moves around the cameras, who gives a fuck? Eventually, he'll enter one of your vents. When he does, all you have to do is hold the flashlight on him before he enters your office and eats your butt. He also only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Silly, which makes you hold the flashlight on him for longer. Very simple character, he makes sound cues, I like sound cues, S tier. Next up, we've got Bop. She's an interesting ADHD-riddled little fuck. When you pull down the camera, there's a chance she'll be standing in your window. She will then dash towards either of your doors. Simply close that door before she gets to it. She has 3 penalties. Layered Square will make Bop charge your doors multiple times. Bop Spawn will cause Bop to be able to spawn at your window even if the camera is down, and Force Down will make Bop force your camera down if it is up. A character that requires quick reaction time, and when more characters get added can be easily missed. E tier. Venus is a fucking plant. Oh, you want to know what they do? Sure, that's fair enough. Venus will sit in the kitchen the entire night like your mom in the middle of the night looking for more food even though she ate 65% of dinner that night. Throughout the night, bunnies will spawn in your room and you'll have to click on them to collect them. You then feed these bunnies to Venus in the kitchen camera. Very fucked up, Venus. These bunnies are cute. Venus has a hefty 4 different penalties, actually being one of the highest in the game. Wabbit hunting will make the bunnies in your office jump around, making them harder to click. Except they're still not hard to click, so it's not that bad. Depopulation will make the bunnies spawn less frequently. Wanderer will make Venus randomly move around your cameras instead of camping the kitchen. And Mako will add Venus's friend Mako into your office. If you click on him, you'll die. Venus is very fun to play with. Their mechanic is satisfying, clicking on the bunnies is fun, and even most of their penalties aren't too bad. S tier. Cyrex is the next character we need to talk about, and I absolutely hate her. She starts in the ticket booth and slowly makes her way to your office. Before she gets to your office, you'll have to go to the ticket booth camera and call her to your office manually and then put the mask on. If she gets to your office by herself, I'm assuming you can guess what happens. And if you couldn't have already guessed, her penalties aren't much better. Rising aggression makes her make you put the mask on longer the longer you take to call her to your office. And call tracker will randomize the camera the call button is on every time you use it. This character is Torment. This character is Anguish, F tier. Next we have Ellie, another character so potently AIDS I fear even talking about her. Her goal is to chew the wires in the storage room to cut your power. You will have to watch for her in either hall. When she's in one, you must make sure the door on that side is open and shake a box of snacks on that side of the office to lure her inside of the office. She will leave shortly thereafter. If your office door isn't open when you lure her, she will bang on the door and drain your power. She also has 3 penalties if this didn't already sound terrible enough. Shaker will force you to shake the bag of treats longer. Power Chomper will make Ellie drain more power when she bangs on your door, and Wind Skip will make her able to teleport from one hall to another without ever appearing in your window like she usually does. I don't think I have to explain why this character is awful to deal with. The rules that go along with her are far more complicated than any other character, F tier. The next character we have to begrudgingly talk about is Ammo. Ammo starts in the dining room and will slowly wander to your right door. Each camera he travels through will have an eject button with 2 power. Before Ammo reaches your office, you must press the eject button on any camera that has the eject power, which will then send him back to the dining room. Once a camera is out of power, there's no way to get it back. If this wasn't terrible sounding enough, you haven't even heard of his 3 penalties yet. Quiet Ammo will remove his sound cue when he moves. Single Take only allows each room to have 1 eject power instead of 2, and Demon adds Ammo's friend, Demon, who will randomly move around the ejectable cameras. If you eject a camera Demon is on, you will die. I hate this character. Dealing with him can be bad on higher AI values, but since he's nowhere near as bad as some of the other characters in this game, I'm putting him in D tier. And here we are, 29 pages into my script later, and we can talk about the final animatronic in this game, Swagman. Swagman has a pretty interesting mechanic I've actually never seen before. He will randomly wander around the cameras. You will have to stare at him to fill his swag meter up. If it goes all the way down, he will make you put the mask on for a long ass time. However, this mechanic isn't as bad as I usually say it is, because you can easily tell which camera Swagman is on because he lights it up. So, what about his 3 penalties? Well, Swagalicious makes him move from camera to camera faster, which can get annoying. Endless Swag will force you to put the mask on for the rest of the night if Swagman gets in, and Eye on the Swag will make Swagman's meter go up slower than usual. Overall, not a bad character, and no penalty that removes the ability to see what camera he's on. C tier. And there we go! That's every single character in Too Many Nights. I love how many there are. It leads to such a new and interesting experience every time you play, and I love it. But now I'd like to mention the general penalties that aren't specific to any character, as there are a few of those as well. Generally, from what I've noticed, it's much smarter to pick the general penalties over the character penalties, as it will be much more likely that they will be easier to deal with. Overtime will make each hour of the night last 2 seconds longer, and you can actually have 2 overtime penalties active at a time. Less power will, as the name suggests, make you start each night with less power, 10% to be exact, and you can have 3 of these penalties. Less room is a penalty that will give you 1 less option when selecting animatronics, and you can have 2 of them. All-Star will make the next enemy you add start at max AI value. Stranger Danger will add a random character you don't already have at a very low AI value, and Midnight Motivation will make all characters' AI value increase at 3 AM. All-Star, Stranger Danger, and Midnight Motivation are probably going to be penalties you always want to avoid, but I personally don't think the other characters are that bad. Next up, I'd like to talk about the characters that you can unlock to play as, because if you remember, each character has different pros and cons for you to choose from. To start, each character has a different amount of lives they'll start you with. Getting jump scared by an animatronic will cause you to lose 1 of these lives, giving you multiple opportunities if you mess up. And of course, I'll be putting these guys on a tier list as well. The first character you will have by default is Michael. He gives you 3 hearts and has no abilities. He's as basic can get, really. D tier. You also, by default, have 3 other much more interesting characters. The first being Elizabeth. She gives you 4 hearts and forces the enemies to have their AI values increase slower. But as a con, you'll receive half the amount of coins you'd usually get. The low AI value honestly makes her pretty valuable, but of course, never being able to buy anything is never fun. C tier. Evan is the next auto-unlocked character. He gives you 3 hearts, makes all enemies start on a higher AI value, but to compensate, nets you 1.5x more coins, which will be nice for when we talk about shops later in the video. High AI values are never super great, especially if you're dogshit at FNAF games like I am, but overall he is nowhere near the worst character to choose. C tier. Cassidy is the last character you'll unlock by default. She only gives you 1 heart and makes every single enemy start at maximum aggression, and forces you to pick a penalty every single night. She also will never allow you to see shops. Instead, you can use your money to remove penalties in animatronics. I don't care that you can remove things. Having to pick a penalty every night whilst also only having 1 heart is pure AIDS. F tier. Henry is the first character on the list to unlock. However, you can unlock them in pretty much any order you want. Henry is unlocked by beating at least 1 night while using Michael, Elizabeth, Evan, and Cassidy. something that should be very easy to pull off. He gives you 3 hearts and gives you way more options when picking enemies, penalties, and shop items. However, you will be forced to pick more enemies and more penalties. The last thing you're going to want to do is give yourself more threats. So even though your option pool is bigger, the cons outweigh the pros here a lot. D tier. Gabriel can be unlocked by having 2 penalties active in a run that affect Freddy. He gives you 3 hearts, gives you a guaranteed shop every single night. But as a downside, each character comes with a few of their penalties already added. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and a lot of character-specific penalties are horrific. Sure, you may never have to pick a penalty after beating a night, but I really don't care about that as much as getting butt-fucked by character penalties. F tier. Jeremy can be unlocked by getting a power outage on night 3 and beyond and still surviving the night. Generally one of the harder characters to unlock. He gives you 5 hearts. You start the run with 500% power instead of 100%. The nights are shorter than usual, but as a downside, your power carries over from night to night. But don't let that fool you. 500% power is a lot of fucking power, and if you're good at enemy building, you can easily make that last a long time. And 5 hearts is a fuck ton. Easy A tier character. Susie will be unlocked if you die to Chica twice in a single night and then beat that night. She gives 3 hearts. Each enemy starts at max AI value, but you gain 1 life after you beat a night. Now, at first glance, this may sound really bad, but I actually had my second best run ever using Susie, and it's 100% because of that life gain. With characters always on max difficulty, there's no way for them to get harder, so you'll get used to them at their hardest difficulty pretty quickly. Sure, she's not the best, but she definitely isn't as bad as she sounds. B tier. Fritz is unlocked by having 100 or more coins at one time in a single run. He gives you 2 hearts, and your lives are attached to the number of coins you have. To be specific, for every 50 coins you have, that equals 1 heart. Overall, this character is more confusing than it will ever be useful, actively discouraging you from ever buying anything. You're better off just using Michael, as there's no real downside. D tier. Fitzgerald is unlocked by beating night 5 in a run whilst only picking the leftmost enemies and penalties. I actually struggled a bit unlocking this character, so what does he do? Well, you start with 3 hearts, and each enemy and penalty are randomized each night, meaning the 3 enemies you pick on night 1 will be different on night 2, and you can also pay to reroll, as well as getting a shop every single night. This character really just serves as what I'm going to call a challenge character. You would never actually want to bring this character into a legitimate run, and because of that, I'm giving him an F tier. Sally is easily the most unique character out of all of the normal ones, and I'll explain what normal means in a bit. You unlock her by beating a night with both Percy Poodle and Rowan Rat on max AI values. Sally introduces a brand new mechanic, that being the pup pal from Playtime with Percy. It works in the exact same way as in that game, and the best part, your progress on the night is tied to it. No more waiting out the night. You will have to complete the games on the pup pal for the night to end. Again, this goes to serve as more of a challenge character than anything else, as playing Sally will by default make the game much, much harder. And because of this, I'm giving her F tier. Again, not because she's not a fun character, but because if you're trying to get far in a run, she's not the character for you. And finally, we have the man himself, Scott Cawthon, who is unlocked by completing night 3 with every other character in the game. And of course, since he's the final character, he has the most interesting mechanic. He himself doesn't have any abilities, instead letting you pick the pros and cons from every other character in the game, allowing you to mix and match your favorite pieces from other characters. You don't need me to tell you that Scott is a broken character. I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. Easy S tier. And boom, that's every single playable character in Too Many Nights. So now we can start talking about the items that can be bought in the shop. I won't be going over each and every one since there are literally a fuck ton to talk about, and this video is already long enough. But I do want to talk about some of the best ones to look out for. Early Out is an item that will make each night 2 seconds shorter. More Power will start each night with 10% more power. More Room will give you more options when picking animatronics. The Empress will give you 1 life and give you more options when picking animatronics. The Emperor will decrease every animatronic's AI value by 2. The Chariot will have you start each night with 15% more power. The Hanged Man will remove 2 random penalties you have activated. Death removes a random enemy. The Moon makes each hour 3 seconds shorter. Fritz Children's Bible will make items you can't afford never show up in shops. And Sparked will make sparks appear randomly on cameras, and touching them will increase your power. Those are all of the yummy mashed potatoes in my belly items that I like to look out for in the shop. Again, there are a lot more, but I think it would just be really boring to go over all of them. But there you go. That's everything you need to know, and as far as I'm aware, everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I would highly recommend you give this game a try. It is some of the most fun I've ever had since starting this channel, and I actually plan on doing some Too Many Nights streams here on this channel. If that's something you're interested, let me know. Also, if you were interested, Too Many Nights is actually getting a version 2.1, and it's being worked on as I'm writing this. I'm super excited to see what it has to offer once it's fully released. This game is so incredibly unique and combines 2 of my favorite game genres of all time into one amazing game. The art style is unique, the community input is fantastic, and of course, the gameplay and gameplay loop are impeccable. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or were you just completely uninterested in a game like this? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 1 remake video, I asked you guys if there was a series you'd like to see me revisit, and my favorite comment was this one by I don't know who this is. They said they want to see me cover Jolly again, and that's probably the funniest thing I've ever heard, because there's no way I will ever touch that game again in a million fucking years. Maybe I'll take a look at Jolly Bees sometime in the future though. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in the comments below. When you think of the typical Five Nights at Freddy's game formula, what usually comes to mind? Well, probably being stuck in one spot, unable to move, having characters bombard your doors, and only having a small amount of tools you can use to defend yourself. Occasionally, we'll find a fan game that introduces an interesting new mechanic. And of course, every now and then we find a free roam FNAF game that really, most of the time, feels like its own game that just uses FNAF characters. The game we'll be talking about today takes the FNAF formula and completely flips it on its head, giving you the opportunity to decide how long the nights are, and even introducing useful upgrades along the way. The game we'll be talking about today is Tealerland, a game I've been asked to talk about quite a few times, and a game I actually intended on covering sooner, but due to a bunch of other interesting fan games I've wanted to talk about, I've just been pushing this video off. But today, here we are to talk about it, so strap in and join me as we dive into the depraved world of Tealerland. Tealerland begins by putting us in the shoes of David Artell. Years back, us and our brother opened an amusement park called Tealerland. After a few years of running, the park shut down and Teal and David went their own separate ways. Years after the shutdown, we get an unexpected call from Teal. All he tells us is to find him at the park. So, not knowing what's going on, we make our way back to Tealerland, and this is where the fun can truly begin. Entering the park, we walk around and explore a little, finding some lore pages and oh shit! The fuck was that? In typical horror media fashion, as the main character, I'm going to choose to completely ignore what I just saw and chalk it up to myself seeing things. Continuing to search around the park, we eventually find a pile of garbage bags that look very out of place. Moving them, we find a hidden trap door. So what better choice to make than opening it and climbing straight down blindly instead of, oh I don't know, going back home to our family and sleeping like a normal person? Of course, climbing down a ladder in a FNAF game isn't as simple as it sounds. Instead, it's made into a minigame very reminiscent of the vent crawling section from Sister Location. Except this time around, there is actually a threat. Because yes, if you didn't know, you literally can't die in the vent section of Sister Location. That entire game is hot ass, and if you'd like to hear me talk about how bad it is in another video, let me know in the comments below. As we climb down the ladder, the first threat of this game is introduced, Tealer. As you climb down the ladder, Tealer can appear on either side. When he does, all you have to do is shine your flashlight at him and he'll go away. However, this game thought it would be really funny to make your flashlight have a startup time. So when you see Tealer, you'll kind of just have to awkwardly stare at him for 3 seconds while you wait for your flashlight to charge up and turn on, which just feels really goofy. So, now I have another question to ask you. How do you know a FNAF game is going to be really complicated before you even start? Well, in cases like Post Shift 2, it's walls of text explaining the mechanics that cause the game to feel so bloated it's not even fun. Well, what else? Let me tell you. There is quite literally nothing scarier than opening a FNAF game and seeing that there's a tutorial night. That's how you know the game you're about to play is going to have the most obtuse and random mechanics you've ever seen in your entire life, and Tealerland is no different. So, now's the time I get to explain to you the several tools at our disposal in a way that is hopefully not mind-numbingly boring. But hold up guys, I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about Tealerland. To begin, there are 3 rooms that you can occupy: your office, the hallway, and the supplies room. Each does exactly what you'd probably expect. The office is where you'll do your major important operations, the supplies room is where you do important side objectives throughout the night, and the hallway connects those 2 rooms. Simple. To start, we need to understand how it is you actually complete a night in Tealerland, because it's not as simple as most FNAF games tend to be. Tealerland uses a task-based completion system rather than a time-based one, except, once again, Tealerland chooses to do something different than most task-based completion systems. The goal of Tealerland is to lure all of the animatronics in the building into a bunch of holding cells, and the way we do that is by taking control of another animatronic that's in the supply room. So the first thing you need to do each night is walk to the supply room and put the animatronic together. Its body parts can be found in the hallway and in the supply room itself, and if you want to hear something awesome, these body parts can apparently teleport at will, because you will commonly walk through the hallway, see nothing, walk into the supply room, see an arm, then walk back into the hallway and find a leg just chilling on the floor. Where did it come from? You tell me. Anyways, once you attach all 3 pieces to the robot, it will leave to roam the building. At this point, you can go back to your office and begin to control it. So, who is the first threat during the first hour of this game? Well, that would be Tealer himself. Really, since you won't often come into direct contact with the characters in this game, and you don't deal with them in a typical FNAF way, the way I'm going to choose to talk about these mechanics is going to be different than most of my videos. In order to lure Tealer, you have to get within a 1 tile's range of him. On your computer, you will see several map tiles, and about once every second you can move the T-Lure robot you built from one tile to another. Throughout that night, Tealer will naturally move around the building, with the goal of making it to your office. By making T-Lure get close to Tealer, a lure meter will start to increase. However, it's not just as simple as standing right next to him. Tealer has the ability to infect the lure, meaning that if you make the lure stand in one spot right next to Tealer for too long, he will infect it. So all you really have to do is make sure you move back and forth while trying to lure him. If Tealer does infect your lure, you'll have to go back to the supply room and hack the firewall of the robot, I think. I don't really know what it is we're doing, I'll be honest. Basically, when the lure is infected, go to the supply room and open up your firewall. Inside, there will be a list of files with one of them infected. You can tell which one is infected because it will have the prefix Zanny_. All you have to do is click on it and boom, you'll be able to control the lure again. Anyways, back to luring. Once Tealer's lure meter is completely full, he will begin to chase your lure. This is when you need to get Tealer to one of the holding cells and lock him inside. Once you've done that, you can safely check off your to-do list and end the hour. But before we can talk about ending the hour, we have a few more important things to talk about. The first of which being your health. No one character alone will be able to end your run in one jump scare. Each character has a certain damage stat, and they will deal that number of damage to you upon jump scaring you. Typically, it's 2 jump scares and it's game over. However, you do have a med kit inside the supply room, so if you ever get injured, just go there and do like the protagonist from Resident Evil and fix your injury with a bandage. So that brings up the question, how do the animatronics actually damage you if you're constantly moving them around? Great question. As I've already said, Tealer's main goal is to get to your office, so you'll commonly find him moving to the bottom of the map, as that is where the hallway to your office is located. If he gets to your hallway, your lure won't be able to reach him, and you'll have to defend yourself to make him enter the main room once again. You do not want to encounter Tealer in your hallway. So, if you suspect he's there, before you walk into the hallway, you can look through the keyhole of the door to your office. If he's in your hallway, you will see his eyes staring back at you. If this is the case, then you will need to quickly stop looking through the keyhole and wait until you hear Tealer leave. If you walk into the hallway or stare at him through the keyhole for too long, then he'll grip your hips and make you bounce on a crazy style. One last thing to note about Tealer is that he is the slowest character to lure, making him by far the most annoying character we'll deal with throughout the game.
With enough effort, you can take control of anything. An ability far more powerful than any other.
Now, before we continue on to the next hour, we need to talk about possibly the coolest thing that this game does. Tealerland has upgrades that you can unlock and equip. Do these make sense from a story standpoint? No, not really. But is it cool nonetheless? Yes. Yes, it is. After each hour, you'll be able to access the perk menu. There are 6 perks for you to choose from. After completing an hour for the first time, you'll get a perk point, and you can get 2 additional perk points for completing the hard mode version of each hour, which, yes, by the way, each hour has a hard mode version for you to complete. There's no real use talking about them since nothing besides the difficulty really changes, but I will mention one additional thing they add. Every time you go to the computer, you'll have to type in a 4-digit code. It's annoying, that's about it. Anyways, back to the perks. You have 2 rank 1 perks and 4 rank 2 perks. Rank 1 perks cost 2 perk points each, and rank 2 perks cost 4 perk points each. So it'll be up to you to decide how you want to distribute your points. However, there is a clear answer as to which perks are the best. Let's start by looking at the rank 1 perks. The first adds a longer lure infection cooldown when you use the firewall, meaning that it will take longer for your lure to be able to be infected again. And the second rank 1 perk makes it easier to spot which text file in your firewall is infected. Considering it is incredibly easy already to tell which one is infected, it's safe to say that picking this perk is pretty useless. Moving on to the rank 2 perks. The first one really makes my ass quake because of how delectable it is, allowing the speed at which you unlock holding cell doors to increase. Opening the doors does take a considerable amount of time, so being able to do it faster is crucial. The second rank 2 perk just increases your max HP to 130. But generally speaking, if you're not a retard while you play the game, you shouldn't be getting damaged that often, so this perk is an easy skip. The third rank 2 perk increases the range at which your lure will attract the animatronics. This is quite literally so goddamn cock-sucking good I can't describe it to you. To not have to get super close to the characters in order to lure them will save you pretty much all chances you will have at getting your lure infected in the first place. And finally, the fourth rank 2 perk makes your lure move around the building faster, which is actually so yummy mashed potatoes in my belly, I couldn't help but buy this faster than your mom buys DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Postmates subscriptions. Now, moving on to hour 2, which introduces 2 new threats. Let's talk about the one that's a clone of Tealer first, Frill. Frill does pretty much the exact same thing as Tealer. You have to lure him into a holding cell and he can infect your lure. The only way he's different is how he goes about attacking your hallway. When Frill enters your hallway, he will quickly make his way to the door of whichever room you're in and make a noticeable sound cue. When he does, you'll have to look through the keyhole. Once he makes eye contact with you, he'll turn into a little piss baby and move back into the main room. What about the other threat? The one that isn't just an easier version of Tealer? Well, let me introduce you to Willow the Magician. Willow does not give a fuck about your lure, to put it bluntly. She will pile drive right towards your door with no hesitation. However, she is also probably the easiest threat to deal with in this entire game. When Willow enters your hallway, all you have to do is stare her down. Apparently, she's a little autistic and doesn't like eye contact. So all you have to do is make her incredibly uncomfortable in public situations where there are plenty of people around, yet somehow she still manages to feel unsafe because you're staring right at her. However, if you see her in the hallway and exit the hall or take too long to go into the hall, all of a sudden she'll start acting the way she was acting in the DMs and tear your ass to bits.
His machines have far greater potential than what they were made for, sitting in this facility, rotting away. I will put them back together.
Hour 3 introduces another copy and paste character. However, I don't feel like she's that big of an issue. The character in question being Tacy. Tacy is quite literally identical to Frill. She must be lured into a holding cell, can infect your lore, and is even dealt with in the hallway in the exact same way. The only major difference is that she's a lot quieter. She'll still make sound cues, but the chances of you actually hearing them are pretty low. This night does really start to bring into question how hard this game has the possibility of being. Since we obviously can't lure all 3 characters at the same time, it is very likely that at this point of the game we will pretty consistently have someone in our hallway. And with 2 of these characters requiring us to stare at them through a keyhole to deal with, it makes it a hell of a lot more likely that Willow will plow us in the ass. However, I do need to give Tealerland credit where credit is due. Although this game may sound like it can be incredibly unfair, this is honestly one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. Even at the few frustrating bits I had, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I still found myself excited to play the next hour, and even found myself really wanting to complete the hard mode versions of the night, both to unlock the points and perks, and because it's genuinely just a super fun gameplay loop. Don't mind if I do. Done. I'm just too fucking good. I'm just too fucking good. Wahoo. It's the exact same excitement I got when playing Juniors for the first time, and Juniors ended up being one of the longest running series on the Dxtr Black channel.
They were meant to be taken apart, modified, tampered with. He should have known. One day it would all be compromised.
Hour 4 introduces a brand new threat to the mix with a new mechanic we haven't seen yet, so strap in. The threat introduced on this night is Mischievous. He does not have to be lured, and like Willow, does not give a shit about it anyways. He will lurk around your halls and wait to attack. When he enters your hall, his music box will begin to play. When you hear his music box, you cannot leave the room you're currently in or he will force himself on you. And this guy is really ugly, and you don't want that. After his music box finishes playing, he will leave a little doll in the room opposite of the one you're already in. You will then have to quickly move into that other room, find the doll, and click on it before the doll decides to do a little dance on it. Friction shit. This of course brings up the obvious issue. We have a character that forces us to switch rooms very quickly, and with several characters attacking our hall that require us to wait and be patient for us to leave, this could very obviously pose a pretty big threat if we were to get some poor attack timings. Once again, really showing how difficult, annoying, and RNG based this game can be.
One more step until the plan is complete. The clock is ticking.
Night 5 introduces nothing new. However, there is a very, very crucial mechanic I forgot to mention so far. Something that will make your dick hurt, because it certainly made mine hurt. Earlier in this game, a new mechanic was introduced, your generator, which adds a power system to the program you use to control your lure robot. On the map, you will be able to see where the generator is, and you'll also be able to see how much percentage it is at. You obviously don't want that meter to drop down to 0, so how do you fill it? Well, that's pretty simple. At the beginning of each hour, along with the generator, some fuel will spawn somewhere randomly on the map, and when the generator gets low, you'll have to use the lure to go get it and refill the generator. This isn't a hard thing to do by any means, but when you're also trying to juggle everything else that's going on, which trust me, there is a lot of, this will very quickly become something you dread doing.
It is complete. I've fixed them. I have made them perfect. They are all together now. They are now one. It will lure the beast out of his cage.
Well, oh boy, that doesn't sound good. But I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like they're gonna take every character we've seen so far and merge them into one giant terrifying abomination and throw us into a new game mode that we haven't seen so far and have us learn from scratch, right? Oh, word. Shit is snowing. What's going on here? Oh, shit. Something tells me it is most certainly not. Okay, what the hell did I just see? What the fuck is that? Okay, so shit. That's exactly what's happening. Well, what do we have in store for us this time? For some reason, we're in a fucking dank cave. Not really sure why, but we are. And on top of that, there's a computer down in this cave. Again, not really sure why, but we roll with it, I guess. The goal of this finale hour is to destroy what this game calls deterrent, which, yes, is every single character we've seen so far merged into one giant terrifying abomination. The way we go about destroying this thing is actually pretty cool and does literally feel like a boss fight, unlike most FNAF games that introduce boss fights. To start, let's talk about how deterrent attacks, as it's pretty simple. There are two entrances to the room you're in behind you. Occasionally, you'll be able to hear him approach you from behind, and when he does, all you have to do is whip around and hold your flashlight on him. Which, yes, by the way, does have a battery life, so that's fun. Anyways, now to how we beat him. On the computer, we can see 4 rooms. Each room has a generator in it. When you hold the generator down, it will start to charge up. When it reaches 100%, it will explode. I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. You'll be able to see the deterrent moving around on the map. However, while you're charging a generator, for some reason, you go blind, which serves to make it more difficult to track deterrent, but also just literally makes no sense from a gameplay standpoint. But regardless, once you have a generator almost full, you will need to open the door to the generator's room. This will make the deterrent enter the room, but he won't stay in the room for very long, which is why you should already have the generator borderline completely charged by the time you invite him in. Obviously, once he's in, blow that bitch sky high and deal some damage. Then do this 3 more times, and congrats, you've won. Fucking moron, he did it 4 times! Ooh, what the hell? Where am I going? Oh. Yay! Hooray! Hooray! We fucking did it. Oh shit. What's gonna happen here? Oh damn. Oh. Oh, we climbing back out this bitch. Hell yeah, we are. Oh shit. Oh shit, we made it out of this bitch. Uh-oh. Don't tell me that deterrent's still alive out there. Oh, what the fuck was that? Why is it so loud all of a sudden? Oh, that whole fucking place. Oh shit, he tried to crawl out. He tried to crawl out up after me. Get the fuck away. Who you think you is?
Don't you despise me? Don't you want me gone?
I don't really care.
All the times I tried to fix your wrongdoings,
I'm kind of indifferent.
I have already lost.
Yeah, you did. I'm.
Go ahead, David.
What?
Free from this place.
Oh shit, there was a dude in there. There was a dude in there, bro. Gulp. Brutally slaughtered. Wait, did you tell me I just killed a fucking dude down there? Like it wasn't even a robot? I just killed a dude? Is that what you're saying? Trying to understand here. Oh shit. That is disco, bro. Tealerland. No, that was badass. That was a badass game, bro. I can't even front with you. And just like that, we have completion. David puts an axe through the deterrent's head, and we have game over. Except one where we look like a badass. But the story of Tealerland is far more interesting than just that. It begins with 2 brothers, long before the lights of Tealerland ever flickered on. Teal Artel and David Artel built their company from nothing. A small business that slowly grew into something bigger, something sharper. And at the peak of that momentum, the brothers opened an amusement park attraction. Something simple, something fun, something that, at the time, didn't feel like it carried any real weight. That attraction was called Tealerland. For a while, it was nothing more than a strange little corner of the Artel brothers' world, a pet project tucked into the side of a much larger dream. Families came and went, the park buzzed with life, and nobody thought of it as anything more than a novelty. But places like this don't stay harmless forever, not when the people running them drift apart, not when one of them starts slipping into ideas that don't belong in an amusement park. Eventually, Teal and David's partnership cracked, the company fractured, and not long after, Tealerland shut down completely. No public explanation, no clean ending, the gates closed, the lights went out, and the attraction was left to rot under its own dust. When the world moved on, the Artel brothers went their separate ways. One of them tried to rebuild his life, the other vanished. Years passed before David Artel heard from his brother again. Out of nowhere, Teal reached out to him, a voice from a past he thought he'd buried, begging David to return to the old amusement park. The message didn't make sense. It didn't sound like the Teal he once knew, but there was fear in it, desperation, something that made David realize he couldn't ignore it. And so, against every instinct telling him to stay away, he went back. When David arrived, Tealerland was worse than abandoned. It felt staged, silent in a way that didn't feel natural. Half-crumbled structures, props left in strange positions, as if the place hadn't simply been forgotten, but deliberately prepared for someone. And as he wandered deeper into the park, trying to find his brother, he stumbled across something that confirmed it, a hidden entrance leading down into the earth, tracing beneath the park itself. David's company, the one he and Tealer built together, had been hiding an entire facility underneath the attraction. A whole underground complex, sealed off from the public long before Tealerland ever closed. A place where their past hadn't just been stored, it had been left alive. Once inside, David realized this wasn't just a forgotten workplace. The lights still worked, the systems still responded, and something else was awake down there with him. Something that didn't want him leaving. As he pushed further into the complex, the truth started to bleed through in fragments. Teal had been down here. Recently, he'd been working with the animatronics again, repairing them, rewiring them, bringing pieces of a dead attraction back to life. But whatever he had been doing, it wasn't for entertainment anymore. The machines began to move on their own, stalking the halls, watching David, responding like something had trained them toward him specifically. None of this was accidental. None of this was the result of some wandering malfunction. Teal had built an entire scenario deep underground, a controlled maze, a sequence of escalating encounters, leading David step by step through the remnants of their old work. Every hour that passed in the facility dragged him closer to the heart of the place, and closer to Teal's intentions, and along the way, David discovered something he had always kept buried. The truth about what happened years ago, about the employee who died, about the body that David hid, and about what that one terrible decision did to Teal's mind. When Teal finally emerged, no longer the person David once knew, but someone warped by grief, guilt, and obsession, David realized the entire journey through Tealerland had been orchestrated. Teal didn't bring David here to save him, he brought him here to force a reckoning between them. Surrounded by the machines that represented everything that went wrong in their lives. The final confrontation wasn't between man and animatronic, it was between brother and brother. One consumed by the past, the other trying desperately to bury it. And in the end, the fight ended the only way it could. David killed Teal. Not out of malice, not out of hatred, but out of a moment where survival became the only option left. When it was over, the facility fell silent. The machines powered down, and as David surfaced from the underground, authorities arrived. They didn't see a man who'd been hunted. They didn't see the twisted maze his brother designed. All they saw was David Artel standing over the body of his own brother. He was arrested, charged, and locked away. And just like that, Tealerland, the amusement park, the secrets beneath it, the broken partnership that created all of it, was left behind again. This time buried under police tape and unanswered questions. A dead attraction built on dead ideas, reclaimed once more by silence. And with that, as far as I'm aware, is all that Tealerland has to offer. Overall, I think this game was a ton of fun to play. It's not often that a FNAF game has me wanting to try and 100% it. but just like Junior's, Tealerland had me wanting to give it a try. The character designs are amazing, the atmosphere and story are phenomenal, and of course, the gameplay loop is one of the most enjoyable I've ever played. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Tealerland is actually just forgettable garbage? Let me know in the comments below. In my Project Readjusted video, I asked you guys which FNAF cliche you'd like to see removed. And my favorite answer was this one by Dragon S Ether. They said the cliche of dead bodies stuffed in suits, and I totally agree. I think we can all agree that the reason a game like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's is so scary is because the animatronics aren't possessed. So seeing other games find interesting explanations as to why the robots are alive would be really cool. Being overwhelmed, not necessarily something as we people look for in life. There are a lot of things people like to do that don't really make sense to me. Some people like to go cliff jumping or skydiving, something to give them an adrenaline rush, and while I myself would never do it, I can at least understand how that could be appealing. You want to know something nobody ever wants though? To be overwhelmed. This is the reason why a lot of max mode challenges can turn a lot of people off. And the same reason why I have no interest in trying out Hopeless Pursuit. For the love of God, please stop emailing me about Hopeless Pursuit. I'm not doing it. However, recently I found a FNAF game that is one of the most unique FNAF experiences I've ever played. Except there was something very interesting about it. It has to be one of the most overwhelming Five Nights at Freddy's games I've ever played. This is probably going to be a long one, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about Next Week at Freddy's. Next Week at Freddy's takes FNAF 1 and completely reworks everything about it, adding several brand new mechanics to make your heart sink into your ass. And nothing explains this feeling better than when you load into the office and turn around for the first time. Oh, whoa. Whoa, oh. 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 Fuck. This is the control panel, your main mode of defense throughout this game. If this looks like a lot, that's because it is. Here's a fun fact, I actually went to play this game around 4 months ago, but after seeing this monstrosity behind me, I actually ended my recording and chose a different game to play because of how ridiculous it looked. This control panel is intimidating. There are so many switches, levers, and panels on this thing. I wouldn't blame you if you decided just from glancing at this that this game wasn't for you. To really understand just how much shit goes on in this game and how much you'll have to learn, this game actually gives you a tutorial night where you can mess around with everything in the building for as long as you want, because just throwing you into the game would 100% be too overwhelming. Next Week at Freddy's doesn't have any phone calls, nobody to help you and to explain to you what to do. Except there kind of is. This is Comat. Get used to seeing him a lot. His first major role is in the tutorial night, where he will teach you how to use the computers and teach you the mechanics of each important camera in the game, which, by the way, there is a fuck ton of them. So strap in and get ready because it's about to get insane. I'll explain the important mechanics as they become relevant, so let's start with how Comat works, because yes, of course, he himself acts as a threat. While Comat himself can't kill you, he can be the most annoying character on the face of the earth when he wants to be. You can click on his icon on your taskbar to make him appear. There are a few phrases he will say when you do this, and occasionally a phrase will prompt you to respond to it. While you're talking with Comat, you won't be able to interact with anything else on the computer. This includes your cameras, but to be honest, everything else on the computer isn't useful from a gameplay standpoint. If you don't periodically check on Comat this way, he will take speaking with you into his own hands and appear on the screen whenever he wants. He's pretty much just Bonzi Buddy, except he doesn't steal your private data. When Comat chooses to appear on his own, the conversation you'll have with him will be much longer than if you initiated the conversation yourself. And since you can't control anything until Comat leaves, it's in your best interest to occasionally check up on him. 2 characters become active on night 1, Bonnie and Chica. But before we talk about their mechanics, I want to take a moment to really appreciate how amazing this game looks. Every little detail looks incredible, especially the animatronics. If you look very closely, you'll be able to see the fuzz from the fabric on the robots. It's honestly some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. So much attention to detail, it's incredible. But now we can talk about how Bonnie and Chica work. And trust me, these guys do way more than what they do in the official games. Like, take every mechanic that each of them does from every official game and merge them together, and I bet you that they will still do more in this game. I told you it was overwhelming, so let's get into it. Let's start with Bonnie, since he's usually the baseline, basic FNAF character. The character that should be simple to understand and should pave the way for more interesting mechanics to form off of it in later animatronics. How much could he possibly do? Well, a fuck ton. Like, a shitload. Bonnie's a whole fucking FNAF game by himself, I can't even lie. Bonnie starts on stage. You might be wondering why I'm not just saying what I usually say.
Oh, he walks around the building and eventually makes his way to your office.
Well, because he's not that simple this time around. So tracking his movements is actually important. Bonnie has 4 possible attack methods. I'm sorry. 4? That's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. And Bonnie is supposed to be the simplest character? I'm mortified of what is yet to come. Well, calm down, buddy. Let's go over each possible route that Bonnie can take, starting with the most basic one, heading to your office. This one is simple. Bonnie will walk to your office, appear in your window for a while, and eventually walk into the doorway where you can really see how fucking hulkingly terrifying these robots are. I know that FNAF 1 animatronics are like 6'9" or something like that canonically, but no FNAF game has really shown that off in a way that is meaningful. Seeing the animatronics in the doors in this game is actually kind of scary. Obviously, just close the door and you'll be a-okay. However, do keep in mind that the animatronics in this game like to sit at the door for approximately 12 years, so that's fun. Bonnie's next means of making your life miserable is through attacking the compressor room. What the fuck is the compressor room? Well, now is the time we get to start talking about the control panel, and where this game really starts to become an overwhelming headache. The compressor is a large machine inside of the building. The compressor is what allows the doors all throughout the building to be closed, because as I'm sure you could have guessed, it compresses the air that allows the pistons of the door to work properly. I think. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. If any engineers are watching, explain how wrong I am about compression and pistons or whatever the fuck in the comments. Thanks. Bonnie will try to enter this compressor room through the hallway camera right before your office. You will have to use the control panel behind you to remotely close off the door to the compressor room before Bonnie gets the chance to enter. However, it's moments like these where I need to bring up an issue I was never able to figure out myself. Since this game is made in a 3D environment, unlike the Click Team FNAF games, it gives a lot more room for the characters to move around. So it's very common that you'll be able to see characters in multiple places on the same camera. When it comes to doors like the compressor room, telling exactly where the animatronic's next move is going to be is borderline impossible. Sometimes it's obvious and the character will be standing right next to the door facing it. However, sometimes they'll be miles upon miles away from the fucking door, yet still have their next movement opportunity be into said door. You're not near the door, you're fine. Oh, Chica, you dick. So this leads to you closing doors whenever you see a character on the camera, which a lot of the times the character was never going to enter in the first place, therefore just wasting a fuck ton of power for no reason. If Bonnie manages to get into the compressor room, he'll slap his fat crack all over it and break it, which will require you to reboot your compressor. With your compressor off, you obviously won't be able to shut any of the doors throughout the building. This includes the doors you can close on the cameras. Bonnie's next attack strategy is the camera connections in the server room. This works exactly the same as the compressor room in theory. You can close the door to the server room when an animatronic is close, using the control panel behind you. If Bonnie manages to get inside the server room, he'll drop his big fat stupid balls all over the control panel and fuck up your camera connections, making you unable to see any of the cameras. You will then have to manually reboot them, which along with the compressor reboot takes a very long time. However, I'd argue that not being able to see your cameras affects the gameplay loop a lot more often. Where a lot of FNAF games fail to make the cameras super useful, Next Week at Freddy's succeeds greatly at making the cameras more important than any other tool at your disposal. The final attack strategy that Bonnie can have is activating Foxy, which brings up Foxy altogether. There are actually 2 different versions of Foxy in this game, the normal one and the scrapped one in the back room. We'll talk about the back room one later. For now, let's focus on the main Foxy. By himself, Foxy is incapable of doing anything and will never attack you, only through the assistance of Bonnie and 2 other animatronics that can activate him. Bonnie has the chance to enter Pirate's Cove and attempt to activate Foxy. Once Bonnie enters, you won't have a super long time to stop him before Foxy comes for that ass. No. Fucking dick! My whole asshole just fell off. It did, just dropped right out. Just dropped, just flop, just fell right out of my ass. Using the special flashlight on the Pirate's Cove camera, you can scare away any unwanted animatronics. However, using this light does temporarily cause higher power usage from everything that uses power. For what reason? I have no fucking idea. I guess God just hates me. If you don't scare Bonnie away fast enough, Foxy will activate and run to your door. If you don't close it fast enough, he'll place his hook into your rectum, and I'm sure you can imagine how unpleasant that would be. If you do close the door on time, just like FNAF 1, he'll take away some of your power. Except unlike FNAF 1, the max he can take isn't 6, instead being like fucking 15% power just disappears out of existence. So really make sure you're watching that Pirate's Cove camera. Whew. There, a couple of pages into the script, and I'm finally done talking about the very first character in this game. Isn't that awesome? Now it's time to talk about Chica. Chica also has 4 different ways to attack you. Isn't that just fucking awesome? Luckily for us, 3 of the mechanics are identical to Bonnie. Obviously, Chica can attack your right door. She can also try to fuck up your cameras using the server room, and she's one of the other characters that will attempt to activate Foxy. However, I have noticed that it seems like Bonnie will attempt to a lot more frequently. However, that may also just be because Bonnie's AI value is typically always higher than Chica's is. The new mechanic that Chica adds is pretty similar to Bonnie's compressor attack, except Chica will attempt to attack your power grid. When you see her near the power grid door, you can obviously close it using the control panel behind you. If she manages to get into the power grid room, she will literally just shut off the power to the entire building, and you'll have to reboot it, which takes quite a long time. The power being turned off is undoubtedly the most dreadful situation you can be in. Not only does it require you to wait a billion years for your power to turn back on, but the power being turned off also turns off the compressor, meaning that after you wait forever for the power to turn back on, you then have to wait forever again for the compressor to turn back on. And on top of that, at the start of each night, you have to boot up the cameras, which takes time in and of itself. So of course, when the power is cut, you'll have to reboot the computer as well. Oh yeah, and don't forget to be checking on Comat frequently or he'll waste even more of your time. Geez, Dxtr, this sounds pretty complicated, and we haven't even introduced everyone yet? Exactly. We still have a lot more to talk about. But if you want to feel a little bit better, the lower the character's AI, the less likely they are to make the most effective choices, meaning that on night 1, most of the movement will be Bonnie and Chica trying to disable your cameras. I personally didn't have them come to my doors on night 1 at all. Night 2 doesn't add anything new, just increases the AI of Bonnie and Chica, so chances are you're going to be seeing at least one of them at your door on this night. However, I will be taking this time to talk about what I feel is this game's biggest flaw: time. The nights in this game are long as fuck. I'm talking super fucking long. However long you think they are, they're longer. Most typical FNAF games now will have a real life second equal 1 in-game minute, meaning that most nights in FNAF games are 6 minutes long. I feel this is a good length for a night, just dividing the in-world night time in minutes by 10. However, Next Week at Freddy's thought it'd be really funny and a little bit quirky to make each in-game minute 2 seconds in real life, meaning that each night in Next Week at Freddy's is a whopping 12 fucking minutes long. Are we serious? I guess I get it. The animatronics move pretty slowly to give you time to properly search for them on the cameras. But 12 minutes? I think I'd rather swallow a grenade and die, thank you. Like, I still beat the whole game, but god damn, losing when you're 11 minutes into a night will really make you question how violent of a person you actually are. Now, something interesting happens after beating night 2. We get thrown into what this game calls nightmare segments. Think of them like this game's version of a post-night minigame, except this time there's actually way more to do and it isn't mind-numbingly boring. Well, okay, the first one is. During this nightmare segment, we wake up in the back room of the restaurant. Is this actually happening or is this a nightmare? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm leaning more towards it being a nightmare just because of the name of the segment. We wake up on the floor and notice that the door is closed and we're stuck inside. We say that someone will surely come to find us, and without even standing up, the nightmare ends. Again, I told you the first one was boring, but they will only get more and more interesting from here, trust me. Moving on to night 3, once again, nothing new is added. The AI of Bonnie and Chica are just increased. But you really have to think. With how many different ways each of them can attack you, and how overwhelming the game's system as a whole is, this is still enough to make each night feel significantly more difficult than the last. Moving on to the second nightmare segment, we're finally able to stand up and really get a good look at our surroundings. The room is very small and very cramped, which would give any normal person a feeling of claustrophobia. We pick up a flashlight that barely does a goddamn thing and start to explore for an exit. It's at this point where I noticed that these nightmare sections would be my least favorite part of the game because of the horrendous mix of both motion blur and horrific head bobbing. But that's really besides the point. We eventually notice a door and recognize that it's just like the one in the office. However, the lever that controls the door is missing. We find it on a desk, but before we can attach it to escape, a throbbing pain comes to our head and we pass out. Night 4 is where we get to talk about the new and final threat this game has to offer. But don't let that fool you, because this threat is a big one. A big stinker. A poopy head for all of you elementary schoolers out there who really shouldn't be watching my channel. Night 4 introduces Freddy, and let me tell you, he's got all the tricks up his sleeve, and he's ready to flatten you like a pancake and fold you like an omelet. Freddy can literally do everything, and he moves faster than the other animatronics, so needless to say, he's going to be the one that grabs a clump of your rump and doesn't let go like a snapping turtle. Not only can Freddy take all 4 of the paths that Bonnie and Chica can take, those being fucking the compressor room, activating Foxy, killing the power, and disconnecting your cameras, he can also attack either of your doors, and there's also something else unique to him that he can do. Remember how I told you that there are 2 Foxies in this game? Yeah, Freddy fucks around with the other one. Scrapped Foxy is present in the back room. The only other character who will enter this room is Freddy. And be careful, because sometimes seeing Freddy on this camera can be pretty difficult, as he has the habit of hiding in the shadows. When you see Freddy in the back room, shut the door to Scrapped Foxy's room using the control panel behind you. If Freddy manages to get inside, he will send Scrapped Foxy to your office. However, unlike normal Foxy, Scrapped Foxy can attack either of your doors. I personally have no idea how much power he takes away when he pounds on your door, as I'm a fucking god gamer and never had to deal with him. It is a mistake I will not make again. Uh-oh. Okay, let's talk about this. I had that fucking door closed when Freddy was in there. Which, by the way, you can see my epic FNAF skills on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But once Scrapped Foxy pounds on your door, he'll break in the hallway where he won't reactivate for the rest of the night. And from here, nothing else actually gets added to the night sections. Each night just gets more and more difficult. Now sure, there aren't a lot of threats that can happen at the same time, but the reason why this game is so overwhelming is because of how much you have to remember. You have to know where all the characters are. You have to understand how each mechanic works, and you have to be able to control your nerves during all of this for 12 minutes straight and barely pass each night due to almost running out of power because these animatronics camp more than a fat Call of Duty player. Oh, hi, Chica. My luck is gargantuan right now. Moving on to the third nightmare segment, this game really shows how much of a dickhead it can really be. We wake back up and are finally able to put the lever on the door, only to find out that the door isn't even getting power, which doesn't make sense because we know from the night sections that if there's no power, the door opens, but what the fuck ever, I'm pretty sure this is literally just a nightmare. Turning around, we notice that the once cramped room is now larger, as a wall that was previously present has disappeared, now leading into a large storage area. With our worthless flashlight in hand, we venture into the dark room, following a wire on the ceiling that will hopefully lead to something to turn the power on. After some wandering, we find a breaker box, but it's locked and we're unable to get into it. We figure a key must be around the maze of a storage area somewhere, so we set out to find it. Guys, I hated this section so fucking much. I mentioned earlier I have motion sickness, and this gameplay is some of the most nauseating shit I've ever seen in my life. During my playthrough, which you can watch over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I spent a pretty decent amount of time looking for this key, and I couldn't find it. With my head pounding and really just wanting to wrap up the video, I looked up a walkthrough just to see where it was. I went to the location where the guy in the walkthrough found it, shout out to Indie Fuel by the way, only to find that the key wasn't there. The key spawns in a random location, so you can't look up where it is. I now had to spend who the fuck knows how long wandering around with the feeling that my head was about to implode looking for a key the size of your ball sack. However, eventually I did find it and I used it to unlock the breaker, only to find out that all we unlocked was another fucking lock. God damn it! Are you serious? This is not a thing that has ever existed. Now we have to find a 4-digit code in this fucking hellhole. This is by far the worst nightmare segment in the entire game. It is ruthless. At first I thought, oh, let's just try the classics. You know, 1987, 1983, but nothing worked. So I assumed that I had to go find the numbers somewhere. I checked the walkthrough, and of course, the code is randomized. Amazing. After once again, who fucking knows how long, I wander back to the breaker, only for the game to then tell me that I should listen for clicks on the correct numbers. Are you fucking me right now? Why did you not tell me that when I was guessing codes before? Why did you wait so fucking long to come up with that? This game hates me. This game is pulling my hair and just plowing the shit out of me like I'm a dirty little slut. But whatever. We input the code and flip the breaker switch. And as we're walking back to the door to try and open it, we once again pass out. I guess that's what happened when you're just fucked for hours upon hours at a time. You get so tired, you just pass out. Fantastic. As I've said, Night 5 doesn't add anything new, so we can just jump right back into the hellhole that is these nightmare segments, where the same 15-second ambience loops forever right in my fucking ear when I already have a goddamn headache. Once again, we wake up and walk back to the door to see if we can open it. We flip the switch, and for fuck's sake, something's wrong with the compressor, so we have to go try and find something else. Now, I'm not sure if this next part was just a me thing, so for anyone else who has played this game, let me know if this next part happened to you. We're told literally nothing of importance. The only thing our character states is something along the lines of, "What am I going to do now?" And that's all we're left with. So my first thought is something along the lines of, oh, I just need to look for another who the fuck knows what. So I did just that. I wandered around the storage area looking for something I hadn't seen before. Who can even say how long I was wandering around before I eventually found what I was supposed to find? Directly next to the original room that we were in at the beginning of the nightmare segments, another wall miraculously disappeared, and that's where we were supposed to go. That wouldn't even be a huge problem if I could fucking see anything at all, but it's so fucking dark. I can't see my hands. It's so dark I can't even think, which I know doesn't make sense, but fuck it, here we are. Entering this new room, we see a bunch of pipes on the wall. We know the power is on, but figure that there's a generator somewhere that hasn't been turned on, because it wouldn't be a horror game if you didn't have to turn on a generator at some point, now would it? After wandering down a hallway that probably took me 20 minutes to find because I couldn't see a fucking thing, we stumble into the room where the generator is. We power it on and promptly pass out once more because of how loud it is. I'm sure you could guess, nothing new of note in Night 6, just really fucking hard. In the final nightmare segment, we wake up once more. We walk back to the pipes only to find that a bunch of gas, or air, whatever the fuck, is leaking out of them. So we have to find something to close the valves, which means I get to play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After a long time searching, we find a valve. We then have to take the valve back over to the pipes and figure out which of the billion of them to close off. At first I thought, let's follow the pipe that leads to the door we're trying to open. So after following the completely unconventional and nonsensical twists and turns of the pipes, I found the one that went to the door. Placing the valve in that pipe, I tightened it and it caused the valve to shoot out at Mach 1000 and land who the fuck knows where. So you know what we get to do now? Play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After finding it lying on the fucking ground, I decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna brute force this one. And to my luck, the pipe I chose to put the valve in next just so happened to be the correct one, thank God. Finally, we head back over to the door and try to open it one final time, and finally it opens. We see a newspaper with some audio from a newscast playing in the background, explaining that an employee at Freddy Fazbear's burned down the building after reporting that the animatronic stalked him during the night. This employee is who I can only assume to be us. We were placed into a psychiatric hospital because everyone just assumed we were cuckoo bananas. We also find out that the owner of the restaurant, who in this game is called Jacob Fazler, retarded name, I should mention, has been arrested for killing several children, probably in reference to the typical FNAF missing children's incident. And of course, the co-owner, Marcus Reed, killed his daughter. Why did this game choose to give them different names instead of calling them William and Henry? I'm not totally sure. But with that, the main game of Next Week at Freddy's comes to a close. But this game's lore goes a lot deeper than what we've seen. I mean, seriously, the backstory of this game takes up an overwhelming majority of this game's own Wikipedia page. Throughout this game, you're able to look through the files on the computer while also doing things like checking the cameras. It's through these files where you can learn the most overwhelming bullshit you've ever been up against in your entire life. Alright, so let's break down the absolute shit show that is this game's retelling of the original FNAF lore. As I understand it, and with significant help from the wonderful writing of City, the creator of the FNAF fan game wiki. Seriously, I couldn't do this shit without you. No idea how you had it in you to write all this, but here's my shitty retelling. Next Week at Freddy's kicks off with Jacob Fazler and Marcus Reed, the two guys behind Fazbear Enterprises. They started cooking up the idea in the late 80s, and by October of 1989, they have brought the building that would become Freddy Fazbear's Pizza family restaurant. Jacob even logs all of his progress on the same computer in the office you used during the game, talking about buying the stage, wiring the rooms, and bragging about getting pneumatronics to build the animatronics. He also casts the voices: Adam Burton as Freddy, Rick Ellis as Foxy, and Davey and Suzanne Paul for Bonnie and Chica. By 1990, the place is open. Business is booming. Jacob marries Nancy. She helps out in the studio, and soon they're running 3 locations. Everything looks fine, but Marcus slowly drifts away from the company, skipping meetings and distancing himself. In 1995, Jacob installs the infamous control panel in the office. You know, the fucking NASA dashboard of switches that's basically the whole reason this game is overwhelming in the first place. Then, life falls apart. Nancy dies, and that's never explained, and Jacob is left raising their daughter Lara on his own. Lara grows up around the restaurant but loses interest in it, and Marcus cashes out of the company entirely. Jump to 1999. Jacob gets a shiny $12 million offer from Sunbird Hotel Corporation to expand, and for the first time in years, he's motivated again. But in 2001, Marcus storms back demanding his old share. Jacob tells him, "Too bad, fucker, the deal's already done," and Marcus has a meltdown. He's literally dragged out by Adam Burton, Freddy's voice actor, and Marcus files a lawsuit, but the outcome is never revealed. And then tragedy hits. In June 2001, Lara is found dead in the storage room of Freddy's. 3 days later, Sunbird pulls their deal. Jacob's later logs get darker. He writes about hearing Lara's cries and feeling like she's watching him, angry. By 2002, he admits he's, quote, made a mistake. That mistake? Involvement in the deaths of 3 children. Not long after, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica start moving in disturbingly lifelike ways, which, yeah, the model viewer pretty much confirms are the spirits of those 3 kids. Meanwhile, the employee chat logs on that same office computer show the slow collapse of the place. Staff complain about the animatronics walking around on their own, about creepy suits left lying around, about Jacob drinking and acting strange after Lara's death. Scrap Foxy briefly gets mentioned as this janky earlier version of Foxy. There's even a memo from Jacob banning guest mode after a balloon incident, and literally bolting the animatronics to the stage to avoid lawsuits. And as far as I'm aware, that's all Next Week at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think it's one of the most creative FNAF games ever designed from a gameplay standpoint. The game looks gorgeous, it functions really well, and it found a way to make literally every single mechanic useful, which is something a lot of FNAF games just don't seem to be able to do. I would highly recommend you play this game and give it a try. You will not regret it. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is actually horseshit? Let me know in the comments below. In my Mac Tonight video, I asked you guys what your favorite story from a FNAF game was, and my favorite comment was this one by RetroXGamer, who said The Return to Freddy's. That's just the funniest joke I've ever heard, because the story of that series is actually so hot garbage that I need to jump into an ice bath to cool off. Subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Buy some merch because I'm Rizzy, I've been Dxtr, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!